and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Scale of 1 to 10, immediate number locked in. Beards, do you have a number?
I'd say so.
Should we say it at the same time? How do
Say
you
it at the 1, 2, 3, go.
4.
I put 0.
Oh, interesting.
Really? I said, honestly, it feels like almost 0.
I'm shocked that I'm the highest of the group.
Yeah, well.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. We'll talk some baseball today. We'll talk some college basketball, some NFL football, combine going on today, tomorrow, Sunday, yesterday. We'll talk with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. He'll join us at 11 o'clock. He is back in KC. I was wondering if we were going to talk to him for an hour on the phone because he was in Indianapolis earlier this week. And Brett Veach and Andy Reid talked on Tuesday. So we know Matt Derrick was there. So I thought maybe, he may be there the weekend watching different prospects, things like that. But he is back.
Driving back just for us, actually.
Exactly. And he's
boy,
gonna
are
head
his
back?
arms tired. Yeah, he's going to drive back just for...
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's only like an extra 45 minutes from his house.
That's exactly right.
So he's used to the commute.
Yeah, so he's perfectly fine commuting. You know what? I can get there by 11 if I leave at 4.
Yeah, just a little overnight drive.
If I leave at 4, I got it. That's perfectly fine. I'm good. So, no, Matt Derrick will be here at 11 o'clock, and we'll hang out with him, talk some Chiefs football with him, some draft combine, workout warriors going on. Nolan Smith. He ran a 4.39 and was mad at himself because he didn't feel like he was running as fast as he could.
Did he end up getting credit for having the fastest 10-yard split in combine history?
I didn't see if he actually got the official, whatever that official time was, because it's always the initial one is unofficial and then
Dude
official, all that stuff.
teleported.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love when they overlap the 40-yard dashes with different players and things like that. I love when they do that. Was it Nolan Smith that they overlapped with Stephon Diggs and
DeAndre Hopkins? Yeah. Dusted him.
2 of them might be a Chief this year.
Nolan
2 of
Smith,
those 3 could be wearing a Chiefs uniform this year.
Nolan Smith's an edge, by the way.
Yeah, sorry if people did not know. Nolan Smith, an edge from Georgia.
Not a wide receiver.
That's exactly right. Yes, that should be pointed out that he is an edge rusher from Georgia who has been mocked to the Chiefs a few times at number 31. And that's where I say 2 of those 3 that are overlapped on that 40-yard dash. I mean, could be a Chief next year. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Nolan Smith, and then they can race for real.
I'd be fine with that.
Like Tyreek and McColl did. And then Patrick Mahomes also wants to race different wide receivers because his speed in Madden is too fast for some people. So
not as excited about making Patrick Mahomes just sprint for no reason.
No, I'm not okay with that. I don't think he should be just going around sprinting willy-nilly.
Let's just try to get those feet and ankles and entire kind of lower body issues. Let's make sure that's all tip-top.
The difference, and this is a complete sidebar, and I was thinking about this, that Patrick Mahomes put out another video, the 2 p.m. Productions that follows him around, and essentially saying, back at it, ready to turn the page and move on. It shows him working out, close-ups of his ankle, that he's looking fine. But he's doing all of these different exercises where he's contorting his body in all different ways, right? These static holds where his wrists are one way and his legs are one way and his knees facing this way, and he's doing these different things. And I'm watching it and I'm like, the advancement of training. So first thing that popped in my mind, the advancement of training in the last 10, 15, 5 years? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because how many quarterbacks of yesteryear were working on stretching their ligaments and putting their body in a position and static holds so that if they get landed on or hit a certain way, that their body is more flexible than it would have been if it's just you, me, or somebody else. Or it would have been if you're just, I'm working on my footwork. I'm doing my 3 and 5 and 7 step drops. I'm working on my mechanics is where I'm stepping, where I'm placing my foot, where I'm throwing the ball, release point, all of that stuff, reading defenses, going over self-scouting. These are the things I'm doing in the offseason, working on my running, conditioning, lifting weights and things like that, trying to get a little bigger so I can take the hits in the pocket. Like the previous workouts from quarterbacks that were there versus watching Mahomes and the video he puts out and all of the different ways and the positions that his body is in, that he's putting himself in positions so that if that were to happen in a game. And he even mentioned that the Tampa Bay game when he did the roll to the right, spin back, little flip pass to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he got back up and was fine. But when you watch the video, like that was so close to his ankle just getting crushed. And his ankle bends.
It's terrifying.
And twists. And he said, like, after the game, or maybe it was later on that week, that, well, those are exercises that he works on with Bobby, that they go through things like that. Now, it doesn't help when your ankle is going away to where you just simply can't stretch it, like the Jags game. Nothing you can do about things like that. But something in the Tampa Bay game, he's not even hobbled the next time out, because his ankle apparently is used to doing that because that's the way he's working. It's just another level of him being robotic.
Yes.
Of him having every single detail, thinking of every single part of what makes a franchise quarterback and how do I win? I win by being able to be out there on the field. And how am I out there on the field? Well, I've got to be able to be flexible, to do these different things. Total sidebar, total apropos of absolutely nothing we were going to talk about. But just that video came out, I think, like Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night. And it's just like, this dude, he's different. Maybe other quarterbacks are doing that. They're just not putting the video out of it, but he's different.
I hate to find another place to give credit to Tom Brady, but it's the first guy that I thought of because he became synonymous with the word pliability. Remember hearing Brady talk about pliability? That's the big TB12 thing.
I actually don't.
Oh, well,
I'm learning.
Google with me,
yeah.
Tom Brady pliability.
Okay.
And here's the thing: is some of it I think is going to be hokey exercise bands that you can buy for $900 on his website. A lot of it's about, get the biggest water bottle you can and then just try to stay hydrated. But I do wonder, with that being like I don't even have to turn around. That was Beards knocking on his giant water bottle.
That's my Contigo. Does it make a different sound?
Here's my Bubba
It
cup.
sounds smaller.
It's not the size. It's my Contigo is a grower, not a shower.
If
It's
that
not
was
the
like
size
a flex
of the coffee.
cup,
It's not the size of the coffee. It's what you got in it.
it's the.
I've got water.
Oh, I got coffee.
It's the. What's the of the coffee? Something of the grind. Something. It's the jumble of the Java. As opposed to the motion of the ocean. That's the closest I could get. I'm sorry.
I see.
That was a
I didn't
really
know where you were going with that.
labored
I was as confused as everybody else while you were...
Myself included, yeah. I also didn't know where I was going with that.
While the engine was running there and starting up and
sputtering,
hey,
yeah.
Eventually got it.
The key was turned. I don't know that the engine was running yet.
The engine finally turned over. You got it.
But there being all of this stuff around Brady's sort of whole like branding around all of that makes you wonder if there's something there that certainly you would think. Now again, we're already packing the NFLPA report cards, but you would think that most teams would see like there being some sort of evolution in injury prevention, and that's where you would put all of your chips, right? I mean, what would be, and look at the Chargers and the Ravens on the inverse of this, who again kind of makes sense. The Ravens have had so many injury problems with what we've learned about them in the last week or so. But look at the teams like the Chargers and the Ravens. If there was something they could spend $20 million on to drastically decrease their chance of their players getting injured, I would think that every NFL owner would be all over that if you're actually trying to win and actually trying to keep your players healthy. So I wonder how far that has advanced around the league, or if what Mahomes is doing is still ahead of the curve, which would not be surprising given that he's Patrick Mahomes.
And again, maybe everybody else is doing this. And the difference between what I see with the TB12 and Mahomes' videos, it doesn't look like he's pimping a product.
No, absolutely.
While
Brady
doing
absolutely is hawking product. No doubt.
The TB12 pliability. Get it for $19.99. And if you call now, we're going to throw in an extra one.
The only thing that's wrong about how you frame that is there's no shot you can buy anything useful on that website for anything less than, I would say, $49.99.
That's a good point, yes. But if you buy it now, they will throw in a second one for $19.99.
And you can get the TB12 method How to achieve a lifetime. Boy, this subtitle's too long. It doesn't even all fit on Google. You can get the book on Amazon.
Doesn't even fit on Google.
Ooh, audiobook. You think Brady read it? Let me see.
Is it voiced by Brady?
Narrated by Tom Brady and someone named Jonathan Todd Ross. I wonder if they just got Brady to do the intro or something.
Forward by Tom Brady.
Yeah, on the Audible artwork it says read by Jonathan Todd Ross and Tom Brady.
That's right. That's right.
I wonder who wrote it.
Somebody completely different.
I mean, it says Tom Brady, but I wonder who wrote it.
All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810 to join us today. We'll get into some of the texts throughout the show. Again, college basketball. We'll talk some NFL football. We'll continue doing that. Some Major League Baseball as well as the best team in the Cactus League. I mean, there's no stopping the Kansas City Royals. I mean, you just might as well give them the championship right now.
Dynasties are made in March.
So what everybody says, you can always win a World Series in March, but you can't lose one.
No, absolutely not.
That's the saying in baseball, right?
That's the saying.
You can win a division in March, but you can't lose one.
Anything worth doing is worth doing in March. Lou Gehrig said that.
Yes. Michael Scott.
Yeah, right.
Lou Gehrig, Michael Scott. Texas, real quick, the report card may tell you not every team would spend the money on it.
Right, that's what I'm saying when I mentioned
absolutely.
the report card. Is like I would have thought before all of that that would just be an arms race. Now I do wonder. I do wonder if there are owners who would rather have a little extra pocket change than like the top of the line innovative kind of stuff.
That to me was the most fascinating part about the report card. We got sidetracked yesterday on daycare, but to me the most interesting part is that teams don't go out of their way to spend even more to make sure that training table, saunas, cold tubs, training staff, everything is like top-notch, high-end, the best of the best, and it's just not. Like there are ways of pinching pennies to let's save money over there and over there. Okay, well, let's actually take care of the things that you have invested millions and millions and millions of. Imagine buying a car and spending like $200,000 on it, and then never getting the oil changed.
Right.
Never going in for service.
Right. Or
Or just doing it like every once in a while, like, I guess if you got money for a $200,000 car, you just go buy another one. But regardless, just like not making sure that it can give you maximum performance constantly when you need it or when you want it, and just sort of going about it like, no, I'm going to save money over there. I'll buy the car, but then, do I really want to spend money on the new tires? I can just, another few months on these tires.
I'll go to the pick and pull. Are you sure your car is $200,000?
Boy, I lived off of used tires when I was in college for the old 1994 Honda Accord. It's like tires going flat. Let me just roll into this used tire.
They need
spot.
to match. I don't care. I don't have to be the same size. That maybe front and back.
Same size, but always used. It was like, all right, we got this one for $25. Sold.
Awesome.
I will take that.
They're
one.
just big stones like in the Flintstones. All right, fine. That's okay. I'm moving my car with foot power anyway.
I can get like 10,000 out of this tire.
Yeah.
I'm good.
That's
man.
Great.
I had 4 different branded tires on there. Never got all 4 at one time. Never got 2 in the front or 2 in the back. No, it was always just 1 at a time, just piecing it. Like, no, I'm going to pay $25 for this tire. You pay your $400 for 4, and I'm going to continue. I'm just going to kick the can down the road. I got a salary cap too.
Right, exactly.
I just keep restructuring my budget to eventually, down the road, I may need to get all 4 new tires. But for now, I'm good with just kind of keeping the guys around.
I think earlier in the week I made a car expensive versus car cheap analogy about like Chris Jones maybe. I can't remember. I love that we're sticking on the car metaphors though. Because when you are driving if you've got, an XFL team and even that, right? But like you would expect different standards across the board in some of those places. Your 94 Honda Accord, we've all been there. My old Plymouth Neon did not always get the oil change when it was always recommended because that car was coughing. Like if that car was in the movie Cars, it would be in a home. It needs some help to kind of get helped along a little bit.
It'd be there with Tow Mater.
Tow Mater would have been very familiar with my car.
Mater.
No piston cup for me. Did what in your
you
cup?
Did what in your cup?
Bam!
Yes.
What a reference.
It's a movie we both can get. What are the odds
true.
of that? We finally we
You're
found
right.
it. We found it, everybody. We found it.
Oh, God.
Yes. Man, I think it was 40 Highway and Blue Ridge Cutoff is a spot that had a used tire spot by the old Sizzler.
The absolute everything you just said was perfect.
Yes.
Just a perfect little snapshot.
The old Sizzler over there. There was a used tire spot, and I would always stop in there like, let me get that $25 one right there.
It's amazing.
It was great. All right, 913-912-4810.
I
Texas.
bet Clark Hunt's cars have new tires.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Do they get oil changes?
I don't know.
Probably.
Good question.
The most shocking and
Do his
disheartening.
tires get oil changes?
No, I meant the car. But
What happened to your voice, man? Are you okay? You still sinusy?
he's eating
No, the
I've
sweet
got,
tarts?
I've got some Ritz crackers.
Ritz crackers.
Like a
Got
bird.
breakfast.
Child back there. As
All right,
coming
Uncrustable.
from
Yeah,
the guy
hey,
that's
listen.
eating Uncrustables. You're a child. You're eating Ritz crackers.
Hey, look, I had a frozen waffle for breakfast. I want to go ahead and elevate us all here on this show today.
What a second grader. Move up to fourth grade already.
Holy
Come
cow.
on.
It's a miracle that any of the three of us are eating solid foods now that I think about it.
Tex says the most shocking and disheartening adult purchase was 4 brand new truck tires.
Oh! Because as soon as you, I mean, it's true for all car stuff, but tires especially, second you peel out, those things are worthless. Those things are getting thrown into a lake but the moment you leave the lot.
I mean, you're talking about 4 brand new truck tires?
Yeah,
and you're looking
dude.
at like 800?
Oh!
Ooh, 1,000?
That could have been something fun.
Probably 4 digits minimum?
Can you rent?
1,000?
Or can you live in your tires? Because that's rent.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's rough, man. All right, 913-912-4810.
Disposable purchases are the worst.
A lot of football stuff we'll get into today still throughout the show. Let's take a time out. We'll come back. We'll talk some college basketball as the final weekend of the regular season goes on, and we'll find out on Monday where these teams are seated for the tournament.
Yeah, and we would start talking about all that right now, but we're just too tired.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So what we had planned for this segment, we got into Jack Bleep of what we were going to do here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Matt Derrick will be our guest coming up at 11 o'clock, Chiefs Digest. Hang out with Mick Shaffer in the noon hour. Cuts before the show is over as well. Talk some baseball, too. Let's talk some college basketball as an interesting weekend because it's an earn one, not a it feels like a can't lose type deal for K-State. And I know that's not the deal when you go into a game in the Big 12 and you got a chance to be the number 2 seed. But if they lose this game, it does not hurt them at all. If they go and win the game, they gain in resume a chance to finish as the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament.
A top 10 team in the nation.
Maybe a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, depending on what happens next week in KC. Like that ahead of K-State gives them such an opportunity and a fun matchup and a lead up to that game at 1 o'clock on ESPN Plus.
Gather the family around.
Freaking Big 12, man. I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. Like, I know where I'm going to find a Mizzou game. It's going to be the SEC Network. If Mizzou's playing, check the SEC Network first if you want to find it. KU, probably ESPN. Maybe ESPN
Unless it's against K-State.
Yeah, right. It was the... But, man, it's absurd the amount of... Like, this game... And I understand the business side of it. I understand what the reasoning is for that. I don't need that explained to me. It's just still annoying that this game, which is one of the better games of the weekend, and I know KU Texas has the buildup of the brand names and the top 10 teams. And
the stakes are kind of gone, though.
Right. Like, that's missing. Now, they assigned the networks before. Sure. Like, they didn't look at it and go, well, K-State, West Virginia. Well, that's going to be a fun one at the end of the year. Right. It might be, well, that's the 10th team in the conference versus the 7th team in the conference. Are we going to put that on ESPN, or are we going to put that one on ESPN Plus? Got it. Done. Figured it out.
Like you said, it's not bad business. It's just bad for the viewer to not know where your teams are going to be.
Absolutely. And so there are some fun games tomorrow, mainly Kansas, Texas, and I think K-State, West Virginia. Iowa State, Baylor, we'll see what happens in that one, but Iowa State is just collapsing, and now Grill's been kicked off the team. Don't know what he said.
We still don't know that, right? I was kind of following that when that started.
Said something that that got him kicked off the team and has, like, tweeted out or in a statement of... please, forgive me or whatever it might be that, sorry, the statement was essentially, I said something and I hope you guys can eventually, like, forgive me for when that comes out.
Yep.
We'll see what it is. But he's been kicked off the team, losing so many games in a row. You've got Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, a couple of teams that are 16 and 14, on ESPN2, by the way. So make sure you got that game on ESPN2. TCU is, still looking for seeding in the NCAA tournament, but it's you shouldn't lose this game at Oklahoma. It's a nothing to win game for TCU. Nothing to gain, only something to lose. And K-State, West Virginia is the exact opposite. It's nothing to lose and a lot to gain for K-State. And I say nothing to lose, but we're talking about sliding up a spot or two if they were to beat West Virginia. So, you could lose. You lose the opportunity to move up. You don't move backwards by losing to West Virginia. TCU losing to Oklahoma, they slide backwards. Mizzou losing, if they lost to LSU the other night, they slide backwards. Losing to Ole Miss tomorrow, they slide backwards. K-State doesn't do that. It's a win and advance, or sort of, remain the same. And it's a great opportunity because they took care of business in a dominant way against that Oklahoma team on Wednesday night. And I just love the opportunities in front of these schools because you've got the 1 seed, potentially the 2 seed in K-State, and a chance for Mizzou to be the 3 seed this weekend. And Monday, if we're showing up and talking about those things, it would just continue to add to what has been one of the most remarkable basketball seasons I can remember. That I think KU's a 1 seed even if they go 0-2 the next 2 games. I don't expect them to go 0-2 the next 2 games, but I think they're a 1 seed even if they lose to Texas and lose to whoever in the Big 12 tournament in their first game. They'll be a 1 seed. They may be the 4th number 1, but I think they'll be a 1. But the fact that they're a 1 seed with everybody they lost.
Yep.
And they come back this year and they're a 1 seed. K-State picked 10th, might be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Mizzou picked 10th, might be a 3 seed in the SEC tournament. So it's one of the most remarkable basketball seasons I can ever remember locally.
Yeah.
With the 3 schools. It's phenomenal.
Like we talked about last week or whenever it was, it's certainly the best season for local college basketball since these teams were all in the same conference, and in that last year, everybody being kind of a contender. Specifically on K-State, I think that this game is the exact reason that the phrase playing with house money was invented, because there is something to lose, right? If you're playing with house money, you could put $20 down and you could lose that $20. You can go, oh man, that would be nice if that would have turned into 40. But they are so deep in the black at this point at the casino that God bless you. Go ahead and make one more $20 bet. Hit that button and let's find out where we land here. Because if they win one more game on the road at West Virginia, you end the season with 5 straight. You end up as a top 10 team. I don't know how it's all going to shake out in front of them anyway, but sitting at 11 right now. You know you're punching your ticket as a top 10 team, maybe top 8, maybe a 2 seed in the tournament, definitely the 2 seed in the Big 12. There are just there's even more to gain, but they've gained so much already at this point that there's no way that this game against West Virginia makes you leave the casino feeling bad about yourself, right? It's all right, one more hand. That's what this game feels like to me. And regardless of how this particular hand goes, they are leaving a winner.
Missouri right now is sitting as the 5th seed in the SEC tournament. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. They are 1 game behind both Tennessee and Kentucky. They hold the tiebreaker over both Tennessee and Kentucky.
Just stop timeout there. Just say that sentence again, and then imagine putting that in a little time capsule and sending it back to yourself about 6 months ago.
They hold the tiebreaker over Tennessee and Kentucky. Does Missouri.
Hey, look, and Kentucky hasn't been Kentucky this year, but
for the SEC tournament in Nashville.
Tennessee was.
Mizzou plays Ole Miss at home. You're talking about an 11-19 team, 3-14 in the conference, fired their head coach. It's senior night. That's a layup. It's an absolute layup. Just finish at the rim.
Yep.
It's a breakaway layup. Nobody's even across half court. All you got to do is just go and lay it up. It's fine. Don't. Even if you lay it up, you could probably miss it and still get the rebound. And put it back. That's what this weekend should be for Missouri.
As a don't lose focus game.
Tennessee is heading to Auburn, where Auburn missed out on a prime opportunity to knock off Alabama on the road and to get a premier win, but also punching your ticket to the tournament.
Yep.
Auburn is in the tournament if they beat Alabama.
In Bama, too. I mean, it would have been huge.
At Bracket Matrix, Auburn is a 10. There are 6 teams behind Auburn at Bracket Matrix that are in the tournament as an at-large bid. So they are the 7th. So there's 6 teams behind them. That could certainly pass them up and be at-large bids and Auburn out of the tournament. If Auburn were to lose at home to Tennessee and then lose down in Nashville in their first game, they, depending on what happens with these other teams, they could be eliminated. Behind Auburn, by the way, is West Virginia. This is Bracket Matrix, you know.
It's worth noting, West Virginia does have something to play for.
Absolutely.
The fear of vengeful Bob Huggins that we talked about earlier in the week, notwithstanding, they do have something to prove still.
And Kentucky is heading to Arkansas. Arkansas also has something to play for. They're sitting as an 8 seed, but they're trying to get back on track. That's a team that's pretty darn good, was expected to be a top 10 team most of the year because that's really what they were. I mean, they lost one game. I think they lost one game before January 1st. They entered this calendar year with one loss, and that is not how 2023 has gone. They are 2-4 in their last 6 games. They lost at Alabama by 3. They lost at Tennessee by 20?
18. We're going to get real pedantic, right?
I know, thank you.
How's
I
my
appreciate
math?
that.
My math okay?
Yes, that is right. And Ziegler tore his ACL for Tennessee in that game. Only played a couple of minutes, and they still lost by 18 at Tennessee when Tennessee's starting point guard and one of the best defensive players in the nation only plays a couple of minutes, and you still lose by 18. Arkansas's got something to play for. And it's the rivalry. UK-Arkansas is a rival, and they're playing at home. So Tennessee and Kentucky on the road against teams that are absolutely fighting for their tournament / getting things in the right direction lives, and Mizzou with a layup. I mean, they should at least be the 4. Like, I don't see Tennessee and Kentucky both going and winning games. I can't see how both of them. Kentucky just lost to Vanderbilt at home. That's a rough loss for a team that had won 6 games in a row, and it was, this team is turning it on, and the last thing you're going to want to see is, as a 2 seed, the 7 seed in your region is Kentucky. Imagine if you're at Kansas State. You fought all season long.
Yep.
You get a 2 seed, and all of a sudden, the 7-10 matchup, number 7 seed out of the SEC, Kentucky. That's not the makeup. That's not the talent and the athletes on the floor of a 7 seed, because it took them a while to get things rolling. And it felt like, okay, now they were rolling. This team's figured it out. They're going to be freaking dangerous. And then they lose at home to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And now we'll see what happens when they go to Arkansas this weekend. But that's where you're looking at, like, if Kentucky loses a couple more games, they're going to be on the 8-9 line. Now you're saying, let's head to Kansas City region, where KU is the 1 seed, the 8-9 matchup, the 8 seed out of the SEC, Kentucky. Or Missouri, let's be honest. If Missouri is an 8-9, count them in Kansas City. By the way, we're really starting to look ahead a little bit. They go geography. Got into this argument with many people last year when we were talking about geography, and they're like, it goes by the snake. No, it doesn't. It's not the snake, and they just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back 5, 6. That's not how it works. They go 1 through 68. They rank every single team 1 through 68. And then, when they get those teams 1 through 68, they go by geography. The number 1 overall seed, where's the region closest to them? The number 1 seed, where's the region closest to them? Now you get into the 2 seeds. Well, the top 2 should play the 4th number 1, right? That's how the snake would work. Well, no. Where's the geography? Where is, like, if I'm looking at bracket matrix, Alabama's the number 1 seed. The top, it's Alabama, Houston, Kansas, Purdue. And the regions are New York, Louisville, KC, and Vegas. Alabama, number 1. Well, they would head to Louisville.
Going to Louisville. Yep.
Houston, number 2.
Vegas?
Might be Kansas City.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's really, really curious. Might be Kansas City. They may send them to Vegas because KU is that close.
Make a lot of sense.
And if it's a 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, like, what's the travel from Houston to Kansas City and then Houston to Vegas? Because if it's somewhat similar, and I don't know, how similar it would be, but if it's somewhat similar, then
I think Kansas City's closer, but that's just going off of basic geography.
I think it's going to be closer, but if it's like within like 100 miles, which I don't know if it is or not, my geography of, I know Houston is, down in
there.
Central America.
It's down there.
But like, let's say Houston ends up, or even like Alabama, is like the 2 or 3 seed. Regardless, let's say Kansas ends up in Kansas City. which I do think is going to happen, and it goes and Purdue's the number 4 seed, and then Purdue would be sent to New York. Well, then UCLA is the top number 2 seed. Well, then UCLA should be sent to New York, right? Because that's where Purdue is. Because Purdue's the last number 1. UCLA will be in Vegas.
Yeah.
They
Which
will
is
be
also
going up
about,
against...
about 10 hours further in the drive from Houston to Vegas than to Kansas City. About 21 versus about 11 hours.
What's the mileage?
I don't know.
It's just the
about
overall...
About 800 miles from Vegas to Kansas City.
No, Houston to Vegas and
I
Houston
meant Houston to Kansas City. I just can't
miles?
talk. About 800.
I like doing this on the air, by the way. We're all learning together.
This is all fun that we're all having. It's just that my little Google Maps thing is just spinning right now.
Well, your Google Maps thing is stupid.
About 1,500 miles from Houston to Vegas.
That's different.
So about 700 more miles to Vegas than to Kansas City via Houston.
What is Houston to Louisville? That is...
Those are also like driving miles still. So
yeah, that's 951 miles from Houston to Louisville.
Hey, Houston, you want to play at home? Win, I don't know.
It's interesting of what's going to happen with Kansas City, because if Houston's the number 1...
See you in the Final Four, man. I don't know what to tell you.
If Houston's the number 1 overall seed, they could be sent to Louisville, and then Kansas and Kansas City, and then Alabama sent to New York.
It feels like there's going to be one ugly duckling, right? Like you might be able to get 3 good regional matchups and then one way out.
The fourth one is not geography.
Yeah.
The last team on a seed line, there was no geography. It's just get in where you fit in.
How about this then, Jason? Hot take. KU does have something to play for against Texas and in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, they do.
Texas maybe even less so, but if they go win the Big 12 tournament, maybe they can just leave their stuff at the T-Mobile Center.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is, when it comes to the 8-9, if they go the 8-9 line, if I'm looking at the bracket matrix and like Iowa, Illinois, Arkansas, Missouri are the 8 seeds, depending on where they go. If Missouri's the top 8 seed, they'll be placed in Kansas City. Unless the 1 seed or the 4 or the 5 is an SEC team. That's the thing. They can't play an SEC team before the Elite 8 if it works in the software that's there. Like, there are rules about playing your conference in the first, second, and Sweet 16 that if they can avoid you being with somebody in your conference in the top half of that bracket,
they're going to have to break those rules with the Big 12, right?
You have to break the rules eventually. That's why it's like KU and K-State won't be the 1 and 2 in the same region unless K-State is the 5th team out of the Big 12.
Got it. Okay.
Because the 4 Big 12 teams will be sent to the different regions.
I see.
And that's where geography doesn't matter at that point. Because it can be, well, Texas is right there close to... Yeah, but if Texas is the 4th team taken out of the Big 12, they're just sent where the other 3 Big 12 teams are not.
Got it.
There's no getting around that. That's where they are. And then that starts to dictate geography and everything else. So they go by geography if it works within the rules of bracketing. That's what I'm saying. The bracketing is not just a snake draft. There's so many different rules that have to happen within that. And the first one is geography. So if you're sitting as the top number 8 seed in your Mizzou, and there's not an SEC team on the top half of that bracket, they're sent to the Kansas City region. And if KU's in the Kansas City region, that means that second round game is setting up for KU and Mizzou at T-Mobile Center. If Mizzou wins.
Are people going to complain about this, or can we all agree that that's going to rule? I needed to decide which side of the fence I'm going to be on. I'm on the side of the fence that says that that's awesome. But I'm also not super invested in either of those schools from like a, heritage standpoint or whatever.
I'm okay with it, because I am not. The last thing any Missouri fan should do is complain about, you're seeding in the tournament.
Right. Like,
no, that's.
And you're playing in Kansas City?
Oh, an 8 seed, and it's KU. Of course, it's KU as the one. Did you think the team was a tournament team?
Right. Yeah.
And now you're complaining because the 1 seed is who you would rather not play in the set. The 1 seed, yes, it's Kansas. Whatever. Maybe there's an opportunity for revenge.
So you think they're going to try and duck them this time?
They have a bowl game, actually, that first weekend.
Wouldn't have a choice there.
Figure that out.
Wouldn't have a choice at that one. But here's the thing. I'm already preparing myself for that.
They're gonna
Because
if they're 8-9, they're gonna play a 1 in the second round if they win that first game.
Because I don't think it's a conspiracy theory.
Right. It would just be great television, and also it would work with the math you've laid out.
Because if Missouri's an 8-9, for a fact, they will not play in the region where Alabama is. So now you're talking about a 1 in 3 chance if Missouri's an 8-9 to play KU.
Right.
In the second round.
Right. Because it can't be the SEC team.
And it won't be conspiracy theory of, of course they did this for TV purposes. I stopped with that when I did the I did the mock selection committee in Indianapolis with the NCAA. They invite 30 media members there, and we go through the whole process for 3 days.
Really?
So we take on an AD. So we're given an assignment. You're this AD, and because these different people on the selection committee, they have conferences that they have to study, that they have to be the authority on the Northeastern Conference, right? And so I was given a few conferences, and they were smaller conferences, which sucked. It wasn't like, hey, here's the Big 12. Right. Here's the ACC. It was smaller conferences. So I had to study those teams because if something comes up in a conversation of, hey, Manhattan, what do we look? Is there an injury there? Is this guy going to come back? What are we doing with that? And you got to be, well, who's got Manhattan? I got that conference. Look, what's going on with them is, they beat this team. It sucks with the prep work going into it.
Sure.
Because I kind of just want to sit there and enjoy it.
Right.
But it's amazing the process of what happens. And I talked about this. We go through the whole thing. And that's where I find out where geography is so much. The entire process is seeding 1 through 68.
Yeah.
And it's what they call scrubbing. So you get to the 14th overall, the 15th overall, and they go 14, 15. Are we good with K-State being 14 and, this team being the 15th, Virginia the 15th team? Can we talk about Virginia and K-State real quick? And then they have another discussion where you might move that team up to number 14. Not even knowing, let's move them to a 3 seed or a 4 seed because you're not getting into
you're
seeding
just
yet.
ranking them
You're
first.
ranking them all.
Scrubbing them, as they say
Exactly.
in the
You're
industry.
scrubbing up and down and up and down. And then once that happens, the software takes over. It just boom, 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 this team there, this team there. We got all the way to the end. We printed the bracket. We looked it over and we're like, oh, that's cool. There's so many media members in there that cover basketball for a living. All these people. It took 10 minutes before somebody goes, guys, do you see in the Midwest region, we've got Baylor playing Valparaiso in the first round. That's when Bryce Drew was at Valpo. Bryce Drew versus Scott Drew in the first round.
Wow, yeah.
And we all laughed. We're like, how many of us in here would say that was a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was done on purpose to set up
Absolutely.
Valpo and Baylor. That was TV. That's BS. You screwed those two teams over. Scott Drew and Bryce Drew should not have to play each other in the first round. And most of us were like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And at that point, I'm like, yeah. It is because it was just geography and bracketing principles that this team can't be here. This team can't be there. Okay, this is the next team in. Okay, this is geography. You sent there. And we looked over we didn't even think about it. It's 5 minutes later, we're like, whatever. Guys, Val, and then we talked about it, so do we change that?
Right.
And so we even went back and looked. It's no, you can't change it because this is the reason Valpo was sent there.
Yeah.
This is the reason Baylor was that. It's just that was the connection because of the software that they have will tell you. You'll try to put somebody somewhere and it'll just be a big red on the screen. No, can't do it. And we're like, well, what's the reason there? BYU playing on a Sunday, a big red. BYU can't play on Sunday. They have to be a Thursday, Saturday pod.
Wild.
Yeah.
I think this is all just a big conspiracy to prove that there wasn't a big conspiracy.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Nice job, Josh.
Nice job, Dylan.
Nice job, Christopher. Way to go, Beards.
Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up. He was at the Combine. We'll discuss some things with the Chiefs and different Combine stories going on there in Indianapolis. The quarterbacks and everything talking, and Bryce Young talking about his height and things like that.
And that's not all Bryce Young was talking about?
Well,
about C.J. Stroud?
C.J. Stroud, you said something?
Yeah, C.J. Stroud. My bad. He was asked what other quarterbacks inspire him. He mentioned first Mike Vick, then Deshaun Watson.
Oh, my God, man.
Now, somebody pointed out in the comments here, he also did say Joe Burrow.
Mike Vick and Deshaun Watson. That's...
And Joe Burrow.
yeah, but like...
Yeah, that's horrible, man.
The first two that... no. Totally on the field stuff. But I guess now, like, if that's the case, like, then what felony is Joe Burrow going to get accused of?
Fraud. Just fraud.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It's definitely on you. Oh, you're just a constant disappointment. I just want you to know that.
Sound like my parents.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards. Matt Derrick is our guest. Real quick, want to correct something.
We got to fix some stuff, Matt. Just take your time.
Yeah. Just because I'm so into the already to the regional and selection Sunday, and does KU get Kansas City, and then all of the different geography things that happen with the seeding. And so I'm already preparing people for Mizzou as an 8 seed in the region that KU is playing in as the 1 seed. And I'm talking about, boy, how amazing that would be in Kansas City. It would be in Des Moines because of the pod system. The only way Mizzou and KU would play in Kansas City, Jerry Palm has Mizzou as a 5. So if Mizzou ends up being a 5 in the Kansas City region, or whatever region, the Kansas City region that the KU would be in as a 1. So we'll see, because the 4-5 is going to end up playing in the Sweet 16. 6? What's that?
They could be a 6.
Well, no, they'd have to be a 4 or 5. If they're a 6, they'd play the 2 seed. They could play in the Elite
If
8.
they were 6, they play the 3.
Right, but if they were, I'm just saying, if they were meeting in the Sweet 16, they could certainly be anywhere at the bottom half of the bracket and still meet in the Elite 8.
They wouldn't have to meet until the Elite 8.
That's right, yes. I'm not counting on Missouri getting there. I'm not counting on Missouri
I can't think of anything more Missouri than making it to the Elite 8 and having to run into Kansas.
Sign me up right now.
Yeah, I can think of something more Missouri than getting to the Elite 8, losing to Kansas. Missing the tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of other.
No.
Being a 6 and losing to an 11.
No.
That
would be, yeah.
The 5-12. The 5-12 of the, well, who's your 12 seed this year?
You don't want to be a 5 and facing a 12.
So that would be where they would match up if they matched up in Kansas City by being in that region. Of course, they could be a 6 or a 7 or a 10 and get there on the bottom half of the bracket.
That's what I was thinking on my way in. I was like, give me that 6. I want a 6.
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine with
Give
that.
me a 6.
Palm has them as high as a 5, so you never really know what's going to happen with Missouri should have a layup this weekend against Ole Miss. Kentucky or Tennessee should lose this weekend. One of those teams should lose. The odds of both of them winning against teams that are fighting for their tournaments, and both Kentucky and Tennessee on the road at Arkansas and Auburn, respectively. One of those teams should lose, and if that happens, Missouri gets the double bye in the SEC, so they won't play till Friday as the 4 seed.
That'd be sweet.
They could be the 3 seed, and if they're the 3 seed and win that game, then they would play A&M on Saturday. Instead of, if they're the 4 seed, they'd play Alabama on Saturday, and a chance to exact a little revenge. So who knows where it's all going to end up. There was also a couple of texts about rematches. If my memory serves, I think they relaxed the rules on rematches because they got about 1,000 other things there. If you've played a team twice already for some reason, you can't meet that team until the Sweet 16, but maybe some other things in there. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Who knows? But that's next Sunday. And on Monday, when we come in here and start the show, I think there's a decent chance we might be talking about KU the 1 at the Big 12 tournament, K-State the 2 at the Big 12 tournament, Mizzou the 3 down in Nashville. Be one of the most remarkable college basketball seasons I can remember in a long time.
And just the MU snob that I am.
Which is definitely something that exists. An MU snob.
When you guys were talking about that, and I was like, I can't remember, when both teams, all 3 teams were this good, because if Mizzou's good, I really don't pay attention to what the other 2 are doing.
Well, I mean, that's perfectly fine.
I couldn't tell you.
You cover football. Like if you hosted a show 4 hours a day, then you would know.
You guys got to be up on
what everybody is doing. But
I know what Mizzou was doing in '94. Couldn't tell you what KU and K-State were doing in '94.
Mizzou was going to the Elite 8 in '94 and losing to Damon Stoudemire and Khalid Reeves.
Yes,
in Arizona, getting past Syracuse and Navy and
the highlight being me giving and my friend Beth giving Dave Letterman a 14-0 Mizzou Big 8 sweatshirt.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's a cool. How did that happen? I want to hear this story now. You met David Letterman.
We had tickets for Letterman. Actually, our friend Bill got.
Did you get them from Tickets for Less?
Matt Derrick today brought to you by ticketsforletterman.com.
Ticketsforletterman.com.
Bill and I, set off for tickets. Bill got tickets that I didn't. Bill decided not to use the tickets, so he gave them to us. So I go out there for spring break because it was spring break. It was like March 15th,
perfect,
1994. And so I'm like, we gotta bring a gift for Dave. I mean, we got to do that. So like, okay, just finished up the Big 8 season, 14-0, undefeated champs. We're bringing Dave a Big 8 sweatshirt. So we're in line. You line up before to go into the theater and everything. And the ushers come out beforehand. They're like, okay, here's how the process goes. And if anybody has a gift for Dave, we'll take it now. So we're like, oh, well, here's our sweatshirt for Dave, and other people had some little gifts and everything. They give us that
for Dave. They have the gift exchange.
Yeah. So then they're bringing us all into the theater, and when we walk in, one of the ushers comes over and says, "You two come with us." And they took us down and put us down on. It wasn't the front row, but it was the third row, but it was on the end. It was like the best seat in the house. And it also was in the first seat that they did a shot out of the audience, and so we were there on TV.
That's great.
I am convinced it was because of the sweatshirt.
That's awesome.
I am convinced that Dave said this sweatshirt,
cool.
Put these two right there in the prime spot.
That's pretty cool. It would have been even better if you wore that sweatshirt if Mizzou was playing Ball State.
Here's the
then
more.
Then it would have been like, what a traitor.
Here's the more embarrassing thing is that it was spring in New York, March in New York. So I needed a sweatshirt of my own. So I wore my favorite sweatshirt at the time, which was a Duke sweatshirt.
What? You're on TV at the Mizzou-Arizona game in the Elite Eight.
I'm on Letterman, not at the game.
Okay, sorry. You're right. Sorry, but you're there for the game.
Not for the game. We were just there to see Letterman. You don't pay attention to any of my stories, do you?
When you're talking about that weekend, I thought you were talking about going to the game in Arizona and Letterman beat. But
no,
yes,
it was
being
like March
there,
15th, so this would have been like probably the first weekend of the tournament.
So you're on TV and you're wearing a Duke shirt.
Yeah.
Sweater. Pay attention, Jason.
Sweatshirt.
Well, I knew it was a sweater, but still, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
It's not the proudest moment of my life.
Do you see that Letterman's going by Dave now? He's doing this thing with Bono and the Edge. I think it's a Disney Plus thing, and it's called like Bono and the Edge with Dave Letterman.
He's always called himself Dave, but
the branding is changing. I wonder if there's like a legal thing there with what was he on NBC? was
the intellectual property cops have claimed David Letterman
his actual name, and now he's got to go by Dave for Disney.
He's just going softer now.
Well,
Speaking of
Letterman,
that happens with age.
He's Uncle Dave.
Speaking of Letterman,
Bono and the Edge, a sort of homecoming with Dave Letterman. I might watch this, guys.
You know where he's from?
Letterman.
I drove through Broad Ripple, Indiana. He's from hometown of David Letterman.
Indianapolis, right around
at
Indianapolis.
I almost pulled over in Broad Ripple just so I could.
There you go.
See if I could go find Dave's old house.
And so you went there and you returned. How long were you there in Indianapolis for the combine? This is my segue.
This was a short trip.
Pretty good.
It was a short trip. I was actually going to stay one more day, but I had to cut my trip short. So mostly just out there for the Chiefs and for Brett Veach and Andy Reid. So it was a quick kind of 48 hours in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I was going to say you didn't get a chance to stay around. And did you hear from different players? Did you stay around for press conferences from any of the positional groups? Or
I didn't get to stick around for any of it. Yeah, so it was kind of a quick trip.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're always a fan of those.
Come in Monday, stay all day Tuesday, leave Wednesday, get back Wednesday night.
Okay, because I was talking to Josh. I'm like, is Matt Derrick going to be on the phone? Because he's probably in Indianapolis. So you go there for Veach, Andy Reid. We hear them. We played that on our station during the show. What did you hear from Veach and or Andy Reid?
Andy was pretty chatty about his assistant coaches this time, which
he
usually
let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. Usually doesn't end up spilling the assistant news until like late March or early April.
Doggone it, Herbie.
But yeah, they whipped it out this year early, so there still could be some more movement. We'll see. But what we expected with Girardi, that was no surprise to me. Other than that, we heard a lot of we'll see. We'll see about Orlando Brown. We'll see about Chris Jones. We'll see about L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay. I mean, obviously no commitment at any point about this, but at the same time, hopeful. I mean, especially I asked Brett Veach about Chris Jones, and I think the fact that he says that they're hopeful while acknowledging that he was hopeful at this same point last year with Tyreek Hill that Chris Jones and things will work out.
Before we get, can I ask a quick Girardi question here? Because everyone I've asked this so far has not had an answer for me. Is there anything you know about David Girardi that we should know at this point? Is he a guy that you've had a conversation with, or because the Chiefs do a pretty good job of hiding a lot of the depth from their coaching staff from our prying eyes?
Well,
They do a very good job of that.
Just like Letterman, since he got the promotion, he's now going by Dave.
He's
There you
Dave
go.
Girardi
Dave Girardi.
now on Disney Plus with Bono.
Get that right.
To that point, I was looking for him at Super Bowl opening night specifically for that purpose because this is like the first time in his career with the Chiefs that he's been available to the media.
Good Lord.
But because I had never met him, anything like this, I had to go up to people and with the Chiefs and say, "Hey, who's Girardi?
Where's
Where is
Dave?
he? Where's Dave? Where can I find him?"
Dave's not here.
A lot of some of the assistants are a little more identifiable. Like Corey Matei, who's a guy that we don't get to talk to a lot, but I talked to him as well. I knew how he looked like. Girardi, I mean, bless his heart, Girardi could be any 33-year-old guy. I mean, you just he's got the beard, hair. I mean, you could just say. You could be David Girardi.
I thank
You're
you.
a little young to be David Girardi.
I've got time to become
only
David
a couple
Girardi.
more years. Yeah.
All right. Mahomes, get ready.
But,
I have nothing to offer you.
Quarterback at Geneva College. Was a 2-time All-American at that level, which is, I think, the National Christian College Association.
Famous for their conventions
There you go. Something like that.
at Geneva.
And
Too subtle. Wow. Okay.
No, I just let it. Let it sit.
We're just letting that slide.
It wasn't funny. I mean,
No.
And actually,
It was fine.
I will have a piece up over the weekend about David Girardi. where you will
Fantastic.
get more
Yes.
details,
I didn't
including
even-
from that conversation.
I didn't even know that. That sounds like a setup. Is that going to be at ChiefsDigest.com?
It will be at ChiefsDigest.com.
I can't wait to read that. 'Cause I don't know anything
And-
about this dude.
And I when I was talking to Patrick Mahomes back during training camp in August, and he had said that one of the things he likes about Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy is that they push him. And so I said, well, who else pushes you the most outside of those two guys? And he instantly said Girardi. That's the guy.
Okay.
He's like he knows how to push my buttons. He knows how to get the most out of me. He's a competitive guy just like me. We really get along together.
It's a great nugget.
Chad Henne's spoken well of him too. So
that's a great nugget to know that, because pushing his buttons, getting the most out of them. We don't know all of the relationships behind the scenes, but it felt like, and I don't know what Matt Nagy's going to be as the offensive coordinator, but didn't it feel like Bieniemy was like the one that had the dog in him? That was like, you know what, I'm going to let you know how it is right now. And I don't care if you're Mahomes or Kelsey or whoever, which made LaShawn McCoy mad, but I don't care who you are. I don't know Matt Nagy's personality, because I don't know that's not going to be Andy Reid. Andy Reid's not going to go and dog cuss you out and be all that and be overly theatrical and demonstrative, where Eric Bieniemy's personality and his emotions, that he wears them on his sleeve and it's just who he is. I don't know if Matt Nagy's that guy. So is there going to be that yin to the yang? Like if Matt Nagy's sort of like the, hey, everything's great. This is all, we were in the wrong bleeping formation. Mahomes like, yeah, I know. And then he went and talked to me. Yeah, I know, Matt. Thanks. I'm aware. Like, this is amazing. I can't believe we're doing this. Why am I yelling like this all the time? I don't know. And Eric Bieniemy's like, shut the bleep up, Nagy. Shut up. Get the hell over. Why are you dog cussing? I said, shut up, get the hell over there. Yay, I'm going somewhere else. I'm excited. I don't know if that's the
Jason's
relationship.
Matt Nagy impression, just so everyone knows, I think this needs to continue being the case, is always with him basically like double shake weighting over his head. Yay!
Yeah.
Like Rocky when he got up the stairs
Double
of the
fist pump.
museum.
But in
Philly.
sync, though, is really important.
But this is only Matt Nagy parade impersonation.
That's a good point, yes.
And I'm gonna say non-sober Matt Nagy, because
this is parade Matt Nagy that we're talking about here.
Okay, who won the parade?
Clyde.
Nagy?
He was living his best life.
Nagy?
every running back who was there.
No. Tommy Townsend?
Kadarius Toney and Amir Smith-Marset with the
Skeleton.
skeleton.
Yeah.
They won.
Pacheco might have won the parade just because of all the dancing and all the hype he got with that.
Clyde. I couldn't let that go.
Yes.
Couldn't let that go, could you?
Sorry.
No.
Hey, look, I'd love to do a fashion.
It was almost like everybody was going down like a runway.
Like a really
all the way,
long,
really long runway with different clothes on. and making like some fashion statements.
Yeah,
that are there.
absolutely.
Surprised that there weren't some guys who
So it's-
changed clothes during the route. Just,
pretty much the same thing Clyde was doing during the parade.
Just way
but
drunker.
Tommy might have won the parade. Tommy Townsend had himself a good parade.
Tommy Townsend's living his best life right now. So
Was it Jalen Watson got wheelchaired
Yes.
out because he couldn't walk?
by
I think
a
he lost-
security who may or may not be Chad Henne in his next job.
I think he lost the parade. I think Jalen Watson was finished last at the parade.
I don't know, man. I've never been so drunk that I needed to get a
feel
wheelchair,
like
and I think that
me
might be
either.
fun.
If there are
either.
not pictures of that in his locker right now that teammates just put up there repeatedly,
Well,
I'll
the picture won't fit in the very small locker,
Can I-
apparently, to the
can I-
players in the
you know-
NFLPA survey.
You know the picture that was going around of Kadarius Toney with the grin
Yes,
on his face?
yes.
We go into the locker room and there's like dozens of those all over the locker
Is
room
that?
one day.
Oh, that's
Really?
amazing.
And
I love that.
And they fit in these small child lockers that the
Oh
They're
yeah,
like-
yeah.
they
The
made a stamp
absolutely-
collection,
yeah,
actually.
the high school lockers that the Chiefs have in their facility
they shrunk it down to wallet size.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
with little tiny stools to sit on. Yeah.
We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But at the Combine, Brett Veach, Andy Reid talking. Brett Veach said it starts with Orlando Brown
Yeah.
this offseason.
And we'll probably end with Orlando Brown.
So, okay, that's great. That's a great place to start then. It starts with Orlando Brown. What do you make of that comment that it feels like Orlando Brown's going to be what sets the budget and things they do there? What does he mean by it starts with Orlando Brown?
I think part of it is that, I mean, it's the most pressing issue to deal with. I mean, not that the Chris Jones issue isn't going to be pressing, but Chris is under contract. So, you've got a starting point there. Really, with Orlando, you're going back to last year. I mean, you're going back to the conversations you had last summer with the contract. I mean, you're kind of starting fresh and brand new. You've got an immediate deadline in that, by March 7th, you got to make the decision about the franchise tag, which I figure could be coming at any moment, that the Chiefs will just go ahead and tag him. I think I can't see any scenario where that doesn't happen. So I think that's what it really means. It's just that's the one where you have an immediate deadline, and two, it's the most pressing overall issue that you're facing this offseason.
Here's how I read into it when he said that it starts with Orlando Brown, and he also talked about the relationship there with his agent. They know each other a little bit more. There's more runway this year.
A year ago, this time,
Yeah.
Orlando did not have an agent.
Right. The runway comment and word is crucial. I think is a big deal because last year they didn't have a whole lot of runway to land the plane. It was he got an agent and then like 5 minutes later the deadline. Like, It wasn't that.
Y'all are
but
being really mean to Clyde this segment.
sorry. So they.
At least Jason and I earned it, I think, right?
That's
Maybe
probably
for
I'm
a
just
lot.
sitting here.
That's probably true. So they didn't have a whole lot of time to really get into details and to extend it out and all of that stuff. It was a very shrunken down time frame. Now they've got more runway, and they know where each other stands. Orlando Brown and his camp, they know where the Chiefs stand and what they want to do. The Chiefs know where Orlando Brown and his camp stand and money they're looking at. So that's at least a good starting point, as opposed to starting way out here, arms stretched, and then eventually getting somewhat close, but then running out of time. Now you're maybe starting.
Were they somewhat close?
I think they're somewhat close because, we're talking about if they would have gone to 106 instead of 95 over the 5 years, that would have been essentially what Trent Williams made over 5 years. Trent Williams' contract was a 6-year contract, but his final year was inflated too. His final year's so Trent Williams is like 23.01, but that final year is like 32, 33. So if you take it as just a 5-year deal, it's like 105, or 106, whereas Orlando Brown in 5 years was 95. So were they $11 million away over 5 years to get to where Orlando?
They were more like 30 apart and guaranteed.
Well, right, the guaranteed stuff
That
and
was
the
the
5
bigger
years.
deal.
And
Yeah.
so we'll see where they get to. But at least they have a starting point. So my reading into that is when he says it starts with Orlando Brown, my takeaway is that it starts with Orlando Brown because that can help set the budget. It doesn't mean Orlando Brown's going to get signed. It means we start with Orlando Brown. We're talking. We have a pretty good idea of where their number is now based off last year. Do they think he's earned more money? Do we think he's earned more money? Are we more willing to meet them where they were a year ago? Are they more willing to come back and meet us and not want to play on the franchise tag again for one more year? It starts there because that can set the dominoes for the rest of the offseason. That's the way that I viewed it. Is it starts with Orlando Brown because that's a big, again, I keep calling it a flow chart. That's the big flow chart as to all the decisions that are going to be made by the Chiefs. Not necessarily it starts with signing Orlando Brown, then everything else falls into place.
I don't completely disagree.
But you do disagree.
And even mostly disagree, it sounds like. This is exciting.
I mean,
No, but I want to know. I want to know how you read that.
I think if you look at, to me, I mean, if you look at Orlando, I mean, the Chiefs have a couple of different choose-your-own-adventure options. And one of them, obviously, is
Love
that
it. I like that one.
I mean, I think the two most obvious ones are, one, you either sign him long-term or you play him under the tag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to the Chiefs, I mean, you can play him under the tag and still sign him long-term. And in that scenario, you're probably talking about the same amount of money. So even if the Chiefs were to tag Orlando and say, got a deal done with him next offseason, I mean, this past year, really, I mean, to me, it's especially with the amount, I mean, it's going to be just under $20 million. I mean, that's a pretty good number for a left tackle.
It means he would have made $36 million in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, sign me up for that.
2 years, $36 million would be a number I think most people should be happy with for Orlando Brown.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be a big deal. And to me, it's, you know, if he were to sign a deal in the offseason, I mean, it's still going to be the same amount of money. It's just kind of when Orlando gets it and how he gets it. I don't think that, to me, saying that it's going to set the budget of what's available, I mean, the only thing that would really do it to me is that, hey, if you got something done with Orlando, maybe that means that you don't touch Patrick Mahomes' contract this year to get some money for, you know, get some cap space this year, because, you know, I mean, those are the three, that and Frank Clark. I mean, those are the three contracts where they can squeeze some money out cap space wise, and they may end up having to do Mahomes anyway,
I think,
you know, to get some cap space. So that, to me, it's not a big deal, especially because, I mean, the Chiefs, when they made the trade, this was one of the scenarios they game planned out, was that, you know, we know there's a possibility that we may have to play Orlando under a tag or two, and they were willing to do that. Yeah. So it's, to me, it's baked into their plan of possibilities. So it's not an absolute necessity that they get Orlando Brown. Would it be nice? Absolutely. They'd love to. But it's not, they don't have to.
Well, the reason I say sort of looking at the budget for this offseason is once they tag him, there's $20 million. 19.9 and change, but $20 million. They've got to be in compliance with the salary cap on March 15th, 3 o'clock. So that's 12 days away. And they're going to have to count that $20 million. And they're going to have to carry that on their salary cap until they get something done with Orlando Brown. So that may be the Patrick Mahomes. It may be Frank Clark. It may be a number of different things that happen, but they're going to have to carry that. Last year, I don't know if the Chiefs planned on carrying 16.6 all year, but they ended up doing that. And did they think Orlando Brown was going to take all the way to July and then not figure something out? Or did they have plans for Orlando Brown earlier to create some cap space, taking a smaller hit on the cap last year so they can go out and make a couple of other moves that they weren't afforded because they just couldn't talk to Orlando Brown because he didn't have an agent? So we can discuss like, well, look, Orlando Brown, he got into camp. Like, he only missed like a day. Right. But what if the Chiefs would have liked to get something done late March with Orlando, and he was like, I don't even have an agent. So now they're carrying 16.6 until July. That messes up the budget too. That's why I bring up like Orlando Brown. Do they think they've got a pretty decent chance of signing him long-term? They feel confident we're going to sign him long-term, and this is the number we're going to set this cap hit this year at. Or we're still far away. They're not budging. We're going to go in March 15th. That $20 million's on our cap all year long. That's how we're approaching this offseason because of our conversations we're already having with them.
But I don't think that, I mean, like, and I can say that, I mean, this is part of the, you know, none of this is unexpected. I mean, they've been prepared for this. So I don't know that you can necessarily point and say that, hey, was there anyone that the Chiefs missed out on last year because
I don't know.
of Orlando?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, I really don't.
It didn't hurt them because they won a Super Bowl.
Exactly. It didn't hurt them. And, you know, and we'll see what, if they do get an extension done, what the first-year cap number would look like. You know, last year it might have been that it was only maybe $8 to $10 million in savings. It could have been less than that, depending on how they wanted to structure it.
Could have been none, like Chris Jones. They franchise tagged him, signed him long term, kept the cap hit the exact same as the franchise tag.
I mean, you know, it could have made absolutely zero impact. This year, it could certainly make a little bit more impact. But once again, last year, if you wanted to free up some space, you know, you had Patrick Mahomes' deal. And then, of course, you freed up a little bit of space by trading Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, for sure. Restructuring Joe Thuney.
Don't think you're going to do that this year with trading Chris Jones, but
Yeah. Is it?
And Frank Clark obviously is the one contract that obviously you could get
there's zero, like Chris Jones, all these other things. There's zero chance Frank Clark. To me, there's zero chance Frank Clark doesn't have a different type of contract or is even not on the Chiefs come March 15th.
And we don't know exactly how much room the Chiefs have because I know unless they've changed the last couple of days. I mean, even like Spotrac and Over the Cap disagree on where the Chiefs are cap space wise, and usually they're both wrong.
Joel Corey, former agent.
Joel usually knows this stuff.
He said they're working right now at about a $3 million deficit. So he's got him about $3 million over the cap right now. So that would mean once they put the tag on Orlando Brown, they need to shave $23 million off the cap.
I think that's quite possible. I mean, it could be that they're $178 under the cap like they were a couple of years ago.
Field Gates tweet. And then they signed Jones and Mahomes after. They have $178 free.
$178, and then you get.
And they just spent $600 million in 2 weeks. How does that happen?
Love the NFL.
Credit card, swipe it. I'm going to pay for the old Jeff Foxworthy line. This is how long ago this stand-up was. He's talking about writing a check. Josh, this is something where you have like a piece of paper and it's got your bank account.
I've heard about these
and
before.
routing number.
This is like a.
You write it out.
Is that what the Declaration of Independence was?
That's exactly right. Written on a check. That's right. They wrote a check that they were worried that their ass couldn't cash, but it did. They did cash it. So Jeff Foxworthy was like, it was like Rent-A-Center was going to come and take all of his stuff back, and he's like, well, I can maybe get some money here or there, and like, well, we take a check. He's, oh, you take a check? I thought you wanted real money. I'll just pay the whole thing off right now. Here you go. Yeah, just take. I thought you wanted actual money. I didn't know you took a check. There you go. So yes, it's like, oh, hold on, it's salary. I thought you were talking about something real. Oh yeah, we can spend $600 million after being $178 under the cap. Not a big deal. But obviously, it's how you structure and all of that stuff. So
you might be bad with money if you have just $177 in cap space.
If you write a check and don't have any money in your account. You might be a redneck.
Weird that as soon as we started our Jeff Foxworthy impressions, Beards told us we needed to take a break. Curious.
Yeah,
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Here's a question that I want Matt.
You might be a bad producer
if you can't get these guys to break, you might be a bad producer. Question that I want Matt Derrick to think on in the break.
Man, I wanted to just hit the go to break button right then.
I know. but I did want to get the question out there.
I know, that's why I'm not. That's why I didn't do it.
Is there anything that can happen or change this offseason? Let me rephrase. Is there anything that can change the offseason plan like Tyreek did last year?
Oh, yes.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Bonjour, Laurent. That's not the best my French accent can do.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I think if you were watching the stream in the break there, you saw some odd hand movements and things that took place. We were all sort of playing a role in somehow singing "We Are the World." We are the children.
You and me.
That's right. Well, there's a choice we're making. It was saving our own lives. It's true to make a better day, you and me. Of course, then Cyndi Lauper. Oh, wow, wow, wow.
Who didn't get the invite to this video and is still pissed about it, do you think?
Well, it's
Isaiah
about
Thomas.
Who was not invited or didn't show up? I mean, I think, wasn't Prince not invited, or did he just choose not to show up?
I don't know. I mean, Dan Aykroyd got the invite.
I can't
so.
remember. It was one,
Yeah, if you're
it was
below
one or
Dan
the other.
Aykroyd on the fold.
That's right.
I can't remember if it was a personal snub or he turned them down, but
Yeah. We were joking because you said that Josh looked like Kenny Loggins because he forgot he had a read there.
We
he
were
had
so excited
just
with
picked up
our
his headphones and just held
neighbors,
one headphone to his ear, and you're like, oh, you look like Kenny Loggins in the We Are the World.
Highway to ticketsforless.com.
No.
No?
Nope. And I
I think yes, actually.
And I'd mentioned that if I'm Kenny Loggins, I would want to punch Steve Perry in that video and in the song because Kenny Loggins just has the "We are the world, we are the children," and then Steve Perry comes in. It just goes way over the top that only Steve Perry can do.
Steve Perry, though.
Right after Kenny Loggins is like, it's like, you know what? Bleep you, Steve. To hell with you. Just punches him right in the face as he's starting to sing.
Do you know they did a song together? Kenny Loggins and Steve Perry. Don't fight it.
oh, that's right.
Well, that's because of
Don't fight it.
yeah, they actually fought.
They did fight.
They
This
fought
was
in that video.
This was released in 1982, so maybe we saw the end of their
And
relationship in the We
there
Are
was
the
a
World
big
video.
scrum going on, and all of a sudden, Bruce Springsteen comes over and Lionel Richie like, hey, don't fight it. Like, whoa, epiphany.
And I feel like, I should ask my son Josh this question
Oh no.
because these things happened before you were born.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the duets between Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney?
Boy, really loosely, but it's been a little bit. My dad was a big Paul McCartney guy, to the point that like he was a little brother, so he liked Wings like more than the Beatles because his brother I think liked the Beatles more, and that's what little brothers do. But so I don't know if I've gone real deep in the Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney catalog. Where do I begin?
I think there's only two.
Okay.
But they go different directions.
You got a
Okay, very good.
50-50 shot.
Okay,
of where-
fantastic.
where
I'll
to
listen to
begin.
them both.
All right, so
Are they wearing clown makeup?
Brett Veach is beginning with Orlando Brown. That's where it
The
started.
Say video is a trip.
This is this one's, and look, Matt, I know that this has burned you before, but I'm adding it to my YouTube watch later list with every
then
intention of actually watching
Sometime
it.
by 2032, he should get to that.
That is a very long queue that you have there.
It is, but
Yeah, it is.
I get back to music stuff. Well, here's the thing, Beards. This isn't an 8-episode HBO series. It's just a music video.
Well, it could have been one when you started any of them on time.
I don't want to watch
Exactly.
them one at a time. I don't want to watch them at all. I want to watch Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson wear clown makeup.
Is there anything that can change the
What else is on
offseason?
that list?
Is there anything that can change the offseason plan like Tyreek did last year that was just sort of out of nowhere and it was like, whoa, hold on, that wasn't something we were talking about?
It's Chris Jones. I mean, it's the exact same scenario.
But here's the thing. Were we I guess what I'm meaning is like Chris Jones we're kind of talking about, right? We're kind of talking about trading Chris Jones. That's been coming up. Nobody was talking about trading Tyreek Hill, right? Or very few were like, hey, should they trade Tyreek Hill this offseason? I think there was kind of a conversation, but I went back and listened to the end of season press conference with Brett Veach, or the end of season Zoom, last year after the Bengals loss. And then the combine press conference. There was 45 minutes of the end of the season with Brett Veach and 15 minutes at the combine, and no Tyreek Hill questions. Not a one question about Tyreek Hill. Now, there were so many other things to talk about with Orlando Brown and Byron Pringle and Anthony Hitchens and Frank Clark, thinking back to those conversations at that time of what they were going to do. But there was just an assumption that, well, Tyreek is going to sign an extension, but it's Orlando Brown, and what are you going to do with these other guys?
Some of it was because, I mean, I know that we talked with Brett about it at the combine in the scrum with the local reporters.
Okay, so that
which wasn't on the podium.
Yeah, so I just listened to the podium part of it.
Those sometimes get different topics and different questions.
I'll be honest with you. I was looking for the scrum in our database here of all the different sound. I couldn't find it. The only thing I could find was the podium sound. So I kind of wondered if that would have happened on the scrum.
It did. I mean, we did talk to him about it, because he even referenced it in this year's scrum to say, last year, I told you guys, hey, I mean, hopeful.
We left here thinking we were going to sign Tyreek Hill.
They left there thinking they were going to get it done, and that's why it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, obviously the Chris Jones question is a bigger deal because once bitten, twice shy. I mean, you're more aware of it now. You're more expecting it, but I'm not sure that – I still don't know if people really take it seriously enough.
That of a trade possibility.
Either a trade possibility or the fact that, you're going to have to pay Chris Jones a lot of money. I mean, him playing the last year of this contract, to me, it's single digits percentage-wise. I can't see it happening. So either the Chiefs are going to pay him or they're going to trade him.
I'm not going to be surprised by it. I am in denial about it as a possibility.
I think a lot of people
That's
are.
where I'm at.
And I don't think the Chiefs are, but I think a lot of fans are.
I'm not in denial about it because I know that it's certainly a possibility of this happening.
Also because you're not in Egypt.
That is only river.
I'm going to leave.
So
Please show yourself out, Josh.
So
my jokes keep getting worse, man. I got to turn this around.
So what's most likely in your mind?
I don't know. Because my brain and my gut say different things. My gut says.
Boy, that's every meal for me.
my and maybe it's just because my gut is more cynical and my gut has just seen too many things. It says, man, Jason Hargrave is going to get like some sort of stupid, ridiculous contract for like $24 million a year, and Chris Jones is going to say, I just beat the crap out of his team and I was the reason why, our defense did what it did. So, hey, sign me up. If he's getting 24, I need 28. I mean, and I wouldn't blame you. I mean, if that's what the market bears, that's what the market bears. And that's what.
Are you paying him if he wants 28? Are you paying him 28?
I would. My head says go for it.
Mine too.
My head says this is the single most important piece of your defense. And I couldn't say that about Tyreek because last year I would have said the single most important part of your offense is Patrick Mahomes, and the second most important part is Travis Kelce. And there's no doubt Tyreek was number 3, but Chris Jones, that's not the case. He's number 1 with a bullet across the board.
So Nate Taylor, in his piece at The Athletic, says this year Chris Jones, according to a league source, wants an extension that will make him at least the second highest paid player at his position. That's the first I've heard of like at least a target for Chris Jones. So at least the highest paid would be somewhere at 24, 25.
Second highest.
Sorry.
So that Aaron Donald number is huge. That's where the second comes from.
At least the second highest paid.
Aaron Donald's average annual value is almost $32 million, a little over 31.5.
Yeah, so 31.5, almost $32 million.
$95 million of it practically guaranteed, according to SpotTrack. $46 million of it guaranteed at signing.
Right. So
here's the crazy thing, though, and you've got it pulled up there, Joshua. Mm-hmm. Who's the number 2 paid defensive tackle right now?
That would be Chris Jones.
Hey, saying he wants to be the second highest paid defensive tackle.
Just keep it rolling.
Beats just painting what he's paying because he's the second highest paid defensive tackle right now.
Well, here's the thing, though.
He's making $20 million a year off his last deal. That is still the second best defensive tackle deal out there.
He drops to third on average annual value because DeForest Buckner got $1 million more per year. So.
But in a couple of months, that
he
won't
can have
be
a $2 million
case.
raise.
Because
Quinn Williams also is probably going to get a deal.
Deron Payne got franchised, and Quinnen Williams has already told the Jets, I ain't showing up to anything until you give me a new. Quinnen Williams is going to want $24-25 million per year.
And that's the problem.
And do you get Chris Jones done before or after Quinnen Williams? Because to me, for the Jets, it's almost like there's a pressing with Quinnen Williams because he's saying, I'm not showing up to anything. I'm not even considering myself a part of the Jets right now until I get a new contract. Voluntary, involuntary, fine me. I don't care. I want a new deal. You guys are talking about these different quarterbacks and going to do all this. I want the money that I'm going to get. So he's going to get paid. So Quinnen Williams might get 24-25. Now you're in a different ballpark than what you are with Chris Jones right now. So that's why I said like 24, 25, 26, for Chris Jones to make sure that he is still, in his mind, at least the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league because they're going to have to come over the top paying and Quinnen Williams.
And Brett Veach wisely identified exactly what the issue is. I mean, he knows it's fully aware. He's like, the market dictates what these deals are.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, Chris Jones has a market deal. I mean, there's not necessarily a reason to give him more money, other than the fact that he will probably wants more money. And two, it would be a reason for him to delay something. But remember, he's under contract, so he's not holding out in training camp or anything of this nature because he's going to lose money. I mean, he's going to get fined for that. And then, it's much harder to forgive those fines now than it used to be under the way the NFL did things. So, there's a real punishment for players who are under contract. I mean, that's why we are seeing like the sit-ins more than the sitting outs. I mean, players show up for camp and then they're like, hammy sore. Can't do anything. But if something gets done, if Quinnen Williams gets signed or gets traded and gets a $25 million deal, well, $22 million isn't the market for Chris Jones anymore. Suddenly it's $1 million more than what he gets, or it's $1 million more than what Jason Hargrave or Fletcher Cox gets. I mean, a deal could change the market overnight, and that's what happened with Tyreek, and that's what – I mean, if you want to get Chris Jones done now for a certain number, you might be able to. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that a month from now you're still going to be able to get a deal with that number.
The Chargers got Mike Williams signed before the market went crazy. They wouldn't be paying Mike Williams what they're paying him right now if it was 3 weeks later, if they'd have signed him 3 weeks later. So good on them that they had a number. He was good with the number. His agency was good with the number. He should probably fire the agency. After that, when you saw the other dollar signs that are coming out, I think there's for the Jets and the Chiefs, I think there's almost got to be a race to get your guy done before the other. Because if I'm Quinnen Williams, I want to go, no, I'm gonna let Chris Jones get his 28, and I'm gonna come right underneath that. Because the Jets, there's no way they're gonna go, oh, Chris Jones got 28, okay, we'll pay you 29. Because no, you're not Chris Jones. But now I think I'm almost as good as him. I'm not Aaron Donald or Chris Jones, but I want money that's right there. And if you're the Chiefs and you wait, and Jones waits, and Quinnen Williams gets 26, well, now Chris Jones is going, well, I'm better than that guy. So it's 31.5 to 26. That's what we're working with, somewhere in there. And I'd probably want to go a couple million more than Quinnen Williams if I'm Chris Jones. So now I'm looking at 28. It would behoove both players to wait for the other, but then you get sort of a game of chicken of like, no, I'm going to wait for him. No, I'm going to wait for him. All right, well, it's July, so somebody figure something out. But it also would behoove both teams to be the first one to get something done because that sort of sets the market for the other person.
It does. I mean, whichever team wins the race will get the better deal, most likely. Mm-hmm. And, and that's the one thing, at least in this case, is that there's the only thing that's really the deadline on it is that teams run out of money.
Yeah. That's true.
And then sometimes that's on purpose. I mean, sometimes teams will purposely, kind of spend their money so then they have a way to point to a veteran like this and say, Chris, we'd love to give you $22 million a year, but we're $178 under the cap right now. We don't have that room for you. So, let's see if we can't work out something else. But I mean, and that's why, to a degree, I think that, I think Josh, was kind of saying, it's maybe you're in denial about it and everything. That's because right now there's nothing that's in the way that would say that the Chiefs and Chris Jones couldn't get an extension done. Yeah. It's just that a shoe could drop elsewhere around the league, and suddenly it makes it a lot harder. And we've been down that road before.
You connect some dots by mentioning that Chris Jones is the second or very slightly third highest paid defensive tackle on his current deal, but with how things have laid out. And so I went back and looked, and so Spotrac has his cap hit from last year being $29 million. Is that what we all had in our heads? I feel like I don't remember it feeling that heavy, which is funny because he's Chris Jones.
No, they took some medicine last year with Mahomes' full contract and Chris Jones.
I know we talked about those guys having more than 30% of the cap combined, but still a shocking, eye-popping stat. But one other thing with Jones here that his current contract and that cap number really hits home for me is it's not like, okay, well, we're going to extend Chris Jones, but then we got to figure out how we're going to carry that weight, if you will. Like the Chiefs have been building a roster with Mahomes and Chris Jones having massive cap hits last year and this year and potentially going forward again. So it's not like there's going to have to be the organizational purge that there ended up kind of being last offseason. So it wouldn't be building around a new barrier in your plan or in your salary cap. Not that they don't have years-long plans for every scenario, because they clearly do. But this isn't extending a guy right out of his rookie deal. You've built your team around Chris Jones for a while, And the idea of dropping him off this team and getting $30 million in cap space in return feels like a really losing battle to me, even if you get draft picks, which you would.
Real quick, I'm going to go to break and wrap up this hour. But so Chris Jones is, the report, Nate Taylor, at least the second highest paid defensive tackle. The report is not, I want to be the highest paid defensive tackle. Tyreek Hill wanted to be the highest paid wide receiver. Chris Jones doesn't come out and say, or at least the report, maybe it's Nate Taylor talking with the Katz brothers of, no, we want to be at least the second highest paid. We understand. And I wonder if there's something along the lines where the last time Chris Jones was going down this path of negotiations with the Chiefs, his deal got done a couple weeks after Mahomes. And Mahomes, as the story goes, left money on the table to then call Chris Jones and say, hey, there's money there, sign, let's go, let's get it done. And then the joke about, I don't know how you leave money on the table when you sign a $500 million contract, right? Last year, Frank Clark had to completely restructure and take a massive pay cut last year to still be on the Chiefs. That's his guy. And Chris Jones has said, bring Frank Clark back, right? So he was right there with Mahomes in the negotiations, and Mahomes took less money to stay to make sure Chris Jones got taken care of. His guy is Frank Clark, his best friend on the team. Restructured his contract, took a pay cut to make sure he stayed on the Chiefs and that team would stay together. Does that impact Chris Jones one way or another? Of like, maybe that's why he's saying at least the second highest. I'm not saying I want 32. I'm not going to screw you guys over like that, okay? I know what it's like to play ball. I've seen that happen with some big name guys on this team to play ball. And I got 2 rings now. Second highest paid defensive tackle, and we move on. I don't need $32 million a year.
Well, and is that where's Donald? Is it 31 or is it
31 and change.
31 and a half, a little more. Yep, 31.7.
So yeah, I mean, you can make Chris Jones taking from $20 million this year to $30 million. He's still the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yes, for sure.
But I mean, and to a point I heard you guys making earlier this week. I mean, is there a scenario where you give Chris Jones his extension, you sign Orlando Brown long term? Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
But I there's 2 caveats to that. One is that, we talk about Patrick Mahomes' deal and leaving some money on the table. That deal is going to get retouched.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He's not playing that 10-year deal as it is. I mean, that deal will get reworked
for sure
and re-extended. I mean, he is getting new money into that deal at some point. And I would be surprised if it doesn't happen in the next 24 months, maybe sooner than later. But that's what the Chiefs knew all along, is that at some point through this deal, they were going to give Mahomes new money. And yeah, you can get all those deals done, but now think about people you don't have deals with. You can sign all these guys and have, hey, great, look at what we got in 2025. Well, in 2025, you don't have L'Jarius Sneed. You don't have Willie Gay. You don't have Nick Bolton. You don't have Creed Humphrey. You don't have Trey Smith. You got some other guys you need to pay, too.
Yeah, you got Mahomes, Kelsey, and your draft picks this year. That's what you have.
Mahomes, Kelsey,
and then your draft picks from
Orlando
2022 and your draft class in 23, 24,
and
et cetera,
30 All-Pro rookies in draft picks. Yes.
Exactly right.
It seems like drafting's actually pretty easy. So as long as they keep just drafting good players,
that is the one last thing. The craziest thing in the world is let L'Jarius Sneed walk. We can draft cornerbacks in our sleep.
That's absurd. No, let's not do that. But they should just keep picking good players. That seems like a great strategy.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You have no problem giving the credit pie when Marcus Kemp can't catch a bleeping football.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. When Marcus...
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, wrapping things up here with Matt Derrick. Marcus Kemp will be catching footballs where
He'll
next
be
year?
catching first downs and making big special teams plays for Eric Bieniemy in Washington.
There you go.
This was first reported by Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest.
There you go.
This is an exclusive. Well,
And of MattDerrick.com.
the unofficial home of Matt Derrick.
That's right.
Don't forget the full title.
So Marcus Kemp now gone, heading somewhere else. So they've told special teams are getting decimated the last couple of years of his mainstay guys. They did a pretty good job of replenishing.
Who
last
else
year.
is Bieniemy going to pinch? Who do you think? Who are you taking with him? Other than Greg Lewis, potentially.
Greg Lewis
That one
potentially.
seems up in the air right now.
What about players?
We'll see.
I want a player.
We'll see.
Chris Jones?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back, Washington Commanders.
We'll see.
You think Bieniemy will?
Look at my eyes, Matt. Matt's eyes told me it's happening. Joshua Brisco reports that Matt Derrick's eyes report.
Matt I said no.
Together.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is this guy has a rough luck with the mouth.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
What are you trying to? Okay, I was like,
Breaking news: Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest still in studio with us here in the Zone.
Well, we were having such a good conversation in the break, and then it's like, hey, we're back on. Is it already time to come back on? And
We're talking about the combine. And
right, yeah.
This is mostly because I was just lazy and didn't get up. And
I mean,
you were like, well,
right,
guys, if you guys, you're just
it
going to
was
sit there like
it's
a
good
lazy.
And then Josh, he was like, well, why don't you just stay here for another segment? I'm like, well, he might have something to do. Like,
It's
I'm not
up
just gonna,
to. I said it's up to. I wanted it to be up to Matt.
I feel like you pressured him because the music was playing at that time, and you're like, oh,
All I got to do is, write David Girardi stories and books. So
Look, if you
nothing to do.
If you left right now, if you unplugged your headphones and walked out, I would not be offended. But I don't want you to feel like you have to drag yourself out of here, which you will have to do when Mick gets here. He will just grab you by the back of your quarter zip and just drag you down the hall.
He will. He would. He's done it before.
He's not nice.
He's dragged you down the hall before? Oh, no.
He's not nice.
You try to overstay your welcome at Sunday Sound Off and see what happens.
Great point.
I have
That's a
tried.
really good point.
I know. I just keep trying to walk into like their cooking set or the other portions. Not even the bistro. No, the set in the cabin. Off to the side.
The stabbing cabin.
I keep trying to make a meal in the stabbing cabin, and eventually Mick has to.
I think that spaghetti has been in that one container for about 5 years.
It was definitely pre-COVID spaghetti for sure.
I don't think the bowl of fruit is real fruit.
Breaking news: it is not real fruit.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't think that bowl
Okay.
of fruit
I just thought I didn't
been
like
there.
apples that much.
Nobody is eating that
It
fruit.
had been a while
Unless they're
since-
replenishing them every Sunday.
Yeah, no, my blood sugar was low, and I thought, oh, cool, an apple, and I just thought I didn't like it very much.
This thing it tastes like styrofoam.
Huh.
This is an odd apple.
Okay.
I just feel like I've overstayed my welcome, and you guys are too polite to tell me to leave.
No, not at all.
That's a Jason move exclusively. I mean,
Although I can feel the ratings decreasing with the longer I stay.
It was too polite to ask you to
the moon
stay.
right now.
Like I was like, well, you got something to do. It's just
I figured we're probably going to talk about some football related things, and if Matt wants to bleep off at any point, Matt, you feel free to bleep off. It just it's a casual Friday. We already talked about college basketball with you, without you. We're just hanging out,
One of the things I had written down to talk to you
Dudes
about
being dudes.
was the NFL Players Association survey.
We never got to that, exactly.
The Chiefs came in 29th overall.
Yeah.
A couple of particulars with this, and I think details that should be noted and continue to be noted when we talk about this in case people had not heard or didn't know some of those details, and that is the survey was done from March 1st to April 1st of 2022. So these are the players that were on the Chiefs in 2021 and what was going on through the 2021 season. This has nothing to do with this last year. It has nothing to do with Rick Burkholder and the training staff throughout the playoffs. It has nothing to do with these rookies this year because they weren't on the Chiefs at that time. They weren't even at the Combine, or they were at the Combine and doing all that stuff in pro days while this survey was going on. So those are nuggets that I think need to be pointed out continually because there's been a lot of, well, how are we talking about Rick Burkholder and all the things that they did? Look at Juju Smith-Schuster talking about this and Justin Watson saying these things about the training staff, and then they go and they get this grade. Has nothing to do with those guys. Juju Smith-Schuster's survey would have been about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Watson, if he turned in his survey, would have been about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So your reaction, takeaway, response of the Chiefs coming in 29th and having some lower grades in these different categories, finishing 32nd in the training staff and 28th in locker room, 28th in team travel.
Some of those grades were very, very well earned, and the players will tell you that.
Interesting.
I mean, travel, for instance. I mean, the Chiefs have charters, but they're plane. They're just standard planes, so they do have a first class section. But most players are in coach. And until this year, I was told by one of the players that staff and coaches had priority, and coaches still have priority in first class. So there's more players in first class this year than there were in previous years, but there's still a lot of big guys in coach, which doesn't go over. There's still rookies that share rooms on road trips and hotels, so that's not a lot of fun. Facilities, that's a nice facility the Chiefs have, and it was really nice when it was remodeled 12 years ago. But the lockers have not been updated since then. Yes, they are correct. They have stools. It's not uncommon to see players laying down on the ground, at their lockers because they really can't stretch their backs out any other way. No, there's not a lot of room to sit in the cafeteria upstairs, so a lot of players do eat at their lockers. It's a tight facility, and the strength room, same thing. I mean, it's a tight work area.
What's the impact then of this at all, if anything, other than the NFLPA? Their mission here is to publicly shame some organizations so that they will then be pressured to spend more money.
NFLPA even says that. I mean, part of this is to try and shame teams.
Absolutely. So what happens then? I mean, do the Chiefs upgrade anything, or do they go, hey, your comfort is the fact that that ring's going to be comfortable on your finger? It clearly is not a correlation causation with your comfort in travel and locker room and being able to go and win on Sundays.
Because our friend Nick Jacobs noted that went through all the rankings and saw that of the last 8 Super Bowl champions, only one was rated higher than 20th.
Wow.
And that was the Eagles at I think 14th.
So is there tough love there? I mean, or is it it's coincidence?
Some of it, and here's the other thing too is,
by the way, tough love that only some of you can sit in first class.
I mean, until you look at the grades and you look at the the spreads. I mean, for like one instance, apparently all but about 5 teams in the league love their strength coach because I think 27 teams got A's or A minuses.
That is true. The strength coaches were loved. You're right about that.
Everyone except for Baltimore, pretty much, who is going off about it still.
Baltimore got hammered.
And a lot of teams hate their training staff. Or don't think highly.
There were a lot of low grades there too, and we don't get a really good appreciation for how big the spread is. What's the difference between first and 29th? I mean, is it really a pretty narrow margin?
And it's
don't get a good
too.
glimpse at that.
It's subjective too, because they also said in the NFLPA part of the letter grade is not just a 1 through 5. It's also a taking in some of the stories, the things that players are writing about.
Yeah.
And then the NFLPA is saying, well, this drops them a level or 2 down here, so we're going to give them a D- on this, when the 1 through 5 might have put them as a C-.
I mean, the only 2 comments that really stand out. I mean, and that part is very subjective because this isn't. I mean, these are just like basically you've been sent at work your survey about your rating your workplace. Is this the best workplace in Kansas City survey? You've gotten this.
Yes.
You fill it out. That's anonymous, and you put your comments. That's anonymous and everything. So, hey, you get your chance to kind of, rip into anybody you want to. So we don't know that 30 people said this or one person said it, but clearly there were some comments about Rick Burkholder. And, I mean, you get some comments like that. I think you have to look at it. And the other thing was, the criticism of the organization and some of the culture as far as, that you felt like the team didn't care about certain things. At least Clark Hunt was singled out at least once. Was feeling like that, not putting into facilities, and and if you feel like that there's a culture in any part of the organization that doesn't care, then you need to pay a little bit of attention to that. But I do look at big pictures. That one, you don't know really how widespread that is and how deep those feelings run. But if you're Clark Hunt, I mean, I'm looking at this and I would be, if I'm in his shoes, I'm like, well, you know what? We're in a spot right now where we're just evaluating what's going to happen. I mean, the Royals are doing their thing. You're doing your own thing with the stadium. They actually redid the locker rooms at the stadium because the stadium facilities were worse than the locker room. So they did put some money into that and fix that up and everything this year. So if I'm Clark Hunt, I mean, I'm considering that as far as, hey, if I'm going to put a bunch of money into the facility, probably going to do it in conjunction with the stadium and everything of this nature because they do need to. I mean, they've run out of room in that building. So they need to do something bigger, but I mean that's a big investment, a big consideration. And the other thing too that I would look at is just look at some of the reactions about what some of the criticisms you got about specific people, and do a review and see how you stand really there.
I thought it was interesting that Anthony Sherman and Garrick Dieter, now with their own show on Wednesday night, they also on with the Border Patrol on Thursday. There wasn't really much they disagreed with that. The Rick Burkholder thing, it was sort of like, well, he oversees everything. It's like, Anthony Sherman was like, I didn't work with Rick. I worked with this person. Garrick Dieter was like, yeah, I worked with this specific.
Everybody's got their own. Everybody has an assigned athletic trainer that they work with.
Yes, they're assigned with that. And
most players believe that there aren't enough of those people on the staff, which isn't even about those people not being good at it, but about it being an understaffed group.
Wish they had more athletic trainers and physical therapists.
And fourth worst in the league in those categories. On staffing.
And asked Garrick about reporting injuries, and he goes, I was a practice squad guy, so I was always scared to report an injury because it's different for me than somebody else going and reporting an injury because I'm worried about getting cut if I'm injured. So there's also that. And if you're in the training room, you're probably not happy anyway. Like, right, aren't you a little frustrated as it is? And you might be looking at it and going, well, this person's over here is recovering and I'm not. Are they doing something wrong? Is this treatment that I'm getting? Is this treatment plan that they're giving me? Is this the wrong? Would I already be out there if it was another team that I was on with another training staff? Would my lung not have been punctured if I wasn't on the Chargers? If I'm Tyrod Taylor? Would these things, by the way, and he was fired, the Chargers. The NFLPA also sort of noted with that, this is a complete sidebar, it said the Chargers strength or the trainer has since been fired or is fired since publication of this, which tells me, because he was fired a week ago, which tells me that the team's got this way before this was made public. Because it said he has since been fired since publication. He was fired a week ago.
And the Ravens strength coach was also, that was like within the last week, right?
Yeah.
And somebody got fired from this like a year ago. I've got all my wires crossed now, but I know the Chargers and Ravens have made now changes at the places where they were worst reviewed.
Yes. So, I mean, that does make a difference if you're saying, well, I don't really want to report my injury. But there is a little bit of a culture thing when there's a fears retribution for speaking up for better care. They don't feel like they get the level of personal care that they should. And there is a feeling of discouragement from reporting the injuries. That's kind of a culture thing. And again, I don't know how much that goes into all locker rooms and training staffs, because as we mentioned and prefaced it with there weren't a whole lot of really high grades for training staffs by really any team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, there's a couple ways to look at it. I mean, one is that even if the Chiefs were bad, I mean, it still seems like there's a pretty good gap between 29th and the teams behind them, because some of the teams behind them do just absolutely ridiculous things. I mean,
By the way, let me.
And I could have
training room.
Right, training staffs are actually very highly
staffs,
reviewed.
Other training staffs, training
rooms. There weren't a lot of high grades. Training staffs, there were a decent.
Everything
amount of high
is
grades.
A's or B's except for the Chargers, Commanders, and Chiefs with a C-, D, and D- for Kansas City.
I want to clarify that the training room, there were a few A's and then there were B's and a lot of C's and D's and things like that.
A lot of A pluses for the training staff too.
I would be willing to bet that everyone in that building from Mark Donovan on down would tell you that anything in that survey relating to size and space is absolutely legitimate. I mean, that team has outgrown that facility. And once again, I mean, if I'm Clark Hunt and I'm Mark Donovan, I might be taking this survey as like, hey, you know what? We can use this because we're going to be going to voters at some point with a plan to, rebuild Arrowhead, and we need to rebuild our facility. And this is going to be a great example to say, we don't have enough space here.
We've
outgrown it.
We want to attract free agents.
I love how full circle this is coming. It is getting. I'm not saying you're wrong, Matt. I'm saying you're seeing the future. Where we're going to get to a point where yesterday it was Clark Hunt shouldn't have to spend any money on this, to where today we're talking about how taxpayers are actually going to make sure that the training rooms get bigger. Oh, that's fantastic.
Hey,
that is capitalistic gold.
I probably shouldn't say the number because I may be misquoting it, but I believe that the state of Missouri kicked in $10 million for the facility when they remodeled it
in 2010.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
So, I mean, I would not be surprised if that comes about again. So, I mean, they're going to be looking for some tax incentives or breaks to put into that facility.
So, what do you make of
$10 million on the university building?
Nailed it.
Wait, sorry, hold on. Nope, don't trust me yet.
Okay, great.
That was a story about St. Joe. I'm going to keep working on it.
And maybe I crossed those numbers, but
only 56% of the respondents from the Chiefs believe Clark Hunt is willing to invest the money to upgrade the facility. They rank him 27th. So 56% is the 27th highest of players that feel like they have a belief in the owner, that the owner would be willing to upgrade if some of these things came to light.
And that is, I am in that cap. That's kind of like, that's probably a pretty narrow spread. I mean, as far as the percentage goes of people who at the very top said their owner is willing to put money in, and to where Clark is, I'm guessing it's not a...
The very top was 100%, and that was the Minnesota Vikings.
And they might have only had like 5 people respond. I mean, I asked the NFLPA if we could get a breakdown of responses by team, but they were unable to provide that.
Of course they were,
but
because they don't want it then being
the average
parsed out like that.
Yeah, the average per team was 41, and I can tell you the Chiefs were under that as far as number of responses.
The Minnesota Vikings ranked as the best team in our guide. 100% of the players feel like owner Ziggy Wilf is willing to spend money to upgrade facilities, and that assessment makes sense since the Vikings have gone through 3 significant upgrades in recent years. The timing of this was the time. If this survey was put out in 2011,
Chiefs would scored very high in some
with
categories.
the brand new facilities that they just built and things like that, I do wonder. It also says their facility was recently built and is considered state of the art. This past year, they replaced former head coach Mike Zimmer with Kevin O'Connell, who through his first year is regarded as one of the most player-friendly coaches. Additionally, the former head trainer, who several players had negative experiences with, moved on from the organization. So there are 3 things there that it was like, okay, they did this, they did this, they did this. Yeah, we feel pretty happy with what's going on. Our owner is showing that, they state-of-the-art facility. They just built this thing. That's great. So timing matters.
Yes.
And things like that. I wonder if they would have even put out the survey when the Chiefs redid the locker rooms at Arrowhead Stadium. Because even though, yes, they were antiquated, they were old, it was too small, they needed an upgrade, it's still odd that you would spend money to improve the place you're there 10 times a year as opposed to the place you're there 6 days a week. That is an odd allocation of resources if you're looking at sort of taking care of the players. Game day locker room, it's nice to have one that's good. But practice facility locker room is where you're going to spend 90% of your time with the team is there. So that is a little interesting with that. But then it's not as bad as some others where there was a team that complained. It might have been Washington, by the way.
Well, Jacksonville had the rat infestation.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't like Urban Meyer, but I do think that's rude to call him a rat.
True, but wow.
Where's with the Cincinnati Bengals?
Oh, the plumbing?
The plumbing. Showers and toilets don't work, and the lockers don't have outlets to charge devices.
Can you imagine?
Like, their locker room doesn't even have an outlet to where you can plug in your phone if you're sitting there after practice or something.
The Raiders did pretty well in this survey. Think about if this survey had been done 3 years ago when they were in the Coliseum.
Well, that's a good point, too. Yeah, that's true.
And everybody hates everything in Washington. Because they
were already in Vegas when this was done.
The Bidwell family in Arizona are amongst, and the Brown family in Cincinnati are notorious as being the cheapest cheapskates in the NFL, and that was borne out in this survey. Cardinals players have to pay for their own meals.
It's crazy.
Bengals players have to pay for their own dinner.
And once again, I mean, the Chiefs might have a daycare facility for the players if they had more space, but they don't have space in the building.
Yeah. Does it matter if they have a daycare facility or not? Because
apparently players
Mick
think
Shaffer hates
nice.
daycares. Just joking. Mick's on his way in right now.
Here right now? I'm going to get out of here.
Mick hates children. That's what I'm
okay,
really
so Mick and I do
that's
some
not
things
true.
in common.
Mick only hates his own children.
That's no. I think it's more
I'm kidding, kids.
I think it's more like you hate everybody else's children. I love kids. My own kids. Don't love your kids.
At one point, Mick and I worked in the same organizations, and my responsibilities was basically branding. And as I often told Mick, I said, when I am eventually fired, your Twitter account will be mentioned prominently.
Are you taking credit for Mick's Twitter account? For the growth of Mick's Twitter
like
brand?
Maybe so.
Like
That's what I'm hearing here. I'm hearing that you're the puppeteer who's been pulling Mick Shaffer's strings this whole time.
I was David Girardi pushing his buttons to get better material out of him.
You were the guy. And you know what? He's going to go to a different city and complain about Matt Derrick. That's why he's not a head coach. I mean, this guy, that's not how you treat people. It's not how you treat people at all. I want to play this clip from Andy Reid, even though it says Andy Reach.
Yeah, I did notice that in the show sheet.
To combine with Andy Reid and Brett Veach. Andy Reach.
Brandy Reach is your full-on combo.
Brandy Veed. talking about the backup quarterback. This was at the podium on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. There it is.
I heard
Okay.
I heard the mic turn on, and there I was like, Beards doesn't have the audio
I
yet.
changed it to today's date.
It just didn't load it immediately, but I got it.
Oh,
Does it
okay.
say
Well,
Andy Reich in the file, or
I hope so. That'd
It's
be
good.
great if it did.
It does not. I can make it say it.
That'd
Here
be
he
great.
is talking about something that we haven't even really discussed other than Chad Henne retiring. Here's Andy Reid discussing the maybe under the radar importance of the backup quarterback.
I hate even calling them backups because you got to think like they're a starter.
Yeah.
So when you approach it, when the scouts look at young guys or free agents, and that's the way you've got to think. Like this guy is one play away from being your starter. So go after the guys that you think are the best for that role. They might not be the most popular, but what would be best for us as a starter.
Where do you think Shane is in that development, Andy?
Yeah, he's made a lot of progress. I think this offseason will be big for him. I think preseason games will be important for him. The more he plays, but he's headed in that direction. Chris was a nice addition too, and so I'm sure there'll be some competition there that they'll present to each other. They're best of friends, but I think it'll be a good competition too.
So, going out and signing a veteran to come in and play backup quarterback, Chase Daniel is out there, so he might be available. But Chase Daniel's not making $1 million.
No.
Right? The Chiefs have to get to a point in their salary cap when they're paying Mahomes $40-something million to not pay a backup $3 million, right? And that to me is like we talk about it. It's like, well, this is sort of an under the radar discussion of who's going to be the backup quarterback. I've just assumed it was going to be Shane Bichelle. Can he navigate the 98-yard drive that Chad Henne did? I don't know. That was very important and very crucial for the Chiefs to be in the position they are with having a parade and winning a Super Bowl. Was Chad Henne stepping up and doing that? Can he do that from time to time or in a game? That's what the backup quarterback for the Chiefs should be, because if that guy has to come in for a season, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's not Patrick Mahomes at that point. So should they be looking at a veteran or just simply say Shane Bichelle has been there, he's been around, and he's not costing that much money at all against the cap, and it's time to get in the business of having a cheap backup?
I see two different ways to look at it. I mean, one, you can treat the backup quarterback job like the Indianapolis Colts did when they had Peyton Manning, which is that just
didn't matter.
Exactly. And what happened? You lose Peyton Manning and you're 2-14. I've never felt like in the Chiefs era with Andy Reid that they're a 2-15, 14 football team with whomever their backup was. I mean, they've always had a veteran. They've had somebody that you felt like that if they needed to play. And
but wouldn't it be better?
They've proven. I mean, even with Matt Moore, they've proven they can win games with their backup.
But if you don't have Mahomes for the season, you're not winning the Super Bowl. I'd rather have a 2-14 year than you go and get a high draft pick. You get Mahomes back, and it's like if rather than being like, hey, they're 8-9 this year. That's cool that you sort of made it competitive. You still didn't make the playoffs, and now you're picking 17th, or you're 2-13 or 2-15, and you're picking third or second, and now you get a premier player and you get Mahomes back.
But what if you're like 9-3 when he gets hurt? At that point, there's
You're still not
no
winning the Super Bowl.
tanking. Yeah, but like we have seen that the backup position matter.
But your point is you're not going 2-15 when you're already 9-3.
This is like one of those would you rather.
Right. There's not there's not a tank button that you get to immediately push, because I'd be with you on that. Real quick from Tom Moore once asked why Peyton Manning's backups didn't get more reps in practice. Quote, fellas, if 18 goes down, we are bleeped, and we don't practice bleeped.
There you go.
That has lived in my brain for a decade now.
And Andy Reid does not follow that philosophy.
Right.
Andy Reid ain't giving away games.
Because Mahomes has gone down a handful of times, both for a chunk in the middle of the season, right in the playoffs, when you have those Chad Henne moments. Like Chad Henne and like Matt Moore, they have mattered in their windows. I don't know, maybe if you can get somebody to do that on a rookie contract, lovely. But
would you rather if Patrick Mahomes went down for
I love would you rather games
12 weeks?
Mm-hmm. No.
And he went down, and you had a backup who was able to get you to 9-8 and into the playoffs.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes is healthy and back.
Yep.
I'm getting dragged out by Mick Shaffer.
maybe in that specific.
Oh wow, Mick realizes you're in his seat. Oh God.
This may have been about the things I said about his family and his Twitter account, though.
No, he agrees with you. Oh, he's angry. He's upset about the Twitter account thing coming out.
He agrees with
He
all
just
of
threw his
that.
beanie down.
He agrees with all of that.
Oh man,
Yeah.
His pratfall in about 2 minutes is going to be violent.
Chad Henne was $2 million against the cap this last year.
Aaron and everybody, just please still have me on sound off since Mick won't do anymore.
Yeah. This is going to be an Aaron project.
Henne was $2 million against the cap. The question is, if they go out and sign a veteran, are they paying him $2 million? Does somebody want a little more than that, or do you go in and say, well, $600,000 for Shane Bichelle, and we save 1.4?
Yeah, competition's only one part of it. The other part of it too is that, especially with Mahomes, even though he's an experienced quarterback now, you'd love to have a guy who's been around the league in 10 years in that quarterback room to bounce things off of, because there's no doubt. I mean, Chad Henne has been invaluable to him as being a guy who has seen everything in this league and can see things on film and point out things that maybe Mahomes won't see and have that sounding board. That is important to Andy Reid to have. So it would not surprise me whether it's on the field or maybe as like an assistant quarterbacks coach. I think a veteran quarterback is going to find its way into that room one way or another.
Okay.
Love that.
You want to throw a dart as to
Alex Smith, quarterback coach?
No
Just say
darts.
it.
I have got no darts to fire.
Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew,
Gardner, please give. That doesn't really fit the category.
Chase Daniel.
But please give me Gardner Minshew.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Please, he's getting paid.
That's what I'm saying.
Most of those guys are getting paid more than Henne was.
That's my point. Who's the veteran that's out there that's going to come in and take 1.5? And is that veteran worth it then to go $1 million more than essentially Shane Bichelle?
Brady. Think about it. He gets another ring.
Oh, that's a good
Gets
point.
to add more rings. Nobody will catch him.
Tom Brady to Kansas City on a $2.5 million deal?
I'd double that if necessary.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, if
When
Mahomes
Aaron
goes
Rodgers another ring.
if Mahomes goes down, I don't want some decrepit old guy back there trying to play football that can't even do it. No, not at all. The guy's got bigger fish to fry in his life. No, thank you. I don't want that guy. No, I'll take Shane Bichelle wearing number 12.
Tell Giselle about the new airport, and she'll come back to him.
Yeah, because that's what was missing in Tampa. It's the airport.
Tampa Airport, really nice, actually.
That's right, Matt. You really are the man. Appreciate you hanging out and staying.
Thanks for letting me stay here, and thanks
Baker Mayfield.
Ooh.
You heard me.
You're just throwing out random names. You're talking about somebody that might be a backup for the Chiefs.
Backup quarterback of my dreams
is
Baker Mayfield.
No, it's Gardner Minshew.
He's also up there, but
it's Gardner Minshew's the backup
Will
quarterback.
A.J. McCarron be available again after his USFL stint is over?
Yeah, he's going to go win a championship in St. Louis and then just make a little 4-hour drive.
Colt McCoy somewhere.
What about Mariota? Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett's he's going to make money.
Carson Wentz.
He's going to be the Raiders quarterback.
Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke's not bad.
Nick Foles still in the league?
Somewhere.
Big bleep Nick.
Probably.
He's 34 years old. He was a Colt this year.
There you go.
How quickly we forget.
See? There you go. Knows the offense.
Heard he's a stallion, too. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. Chiefs Digest. Go check that out. And the Twitter account and the influence he has on everybody else. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, as always.
Thanks for letting me stick around, guys.
Yes, we'll take a time out. We'll come back. Mick Shaffer may be here.
Oh, God, he's coming! Oh, no!
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've tried a lot of different things to get these. There's a couple squirrels that keep wanting to eat the tomatoes and my apples.
Oh, I got it. Don't plant tomatoes.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you, Matt. Matt, get the heck out.
gotta
Mick
go,
is already
Matt.
in here. Oh, man, you're being evicted.
Nerve of that guy.
I also did get that movie reference, by the way. I've seen Star Wars. I'm not Jason.
Airplane.
Oh, never
It's actually
mind.
from Airplane.
It is from
I didn't
Airplane.
get that one then.
Yeah. Don't worry, Josh. We're all counting on you. You're fine. By the way,
mistake.
a couple of...
Don't call me Shirley.
That's right.
Hey, is that from Airplane?
That's from Airplane.
Look at that.
That's actually from
That's
Star
impossible.
Wars.
They're on instruments.
They've taken him to the hospital. A hospital? What is it? It's a big white building where people go.
Yes. How's our Victor? How's our Victor? Roger. Clarence.
You
Anthony.
tell your dad to drag Walton up and down the court. It's 48 minutes a night.
It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether.
Do you know who's the same age as Chad Henne?
Hold on. No.
A lot of people.
Matt Ryan,
I mean,
Joe Flacco, Brian Hoyer. Spin the wheel.
I mean, Joe Flacco's elite.
Yeah, he is. You can't spell elite without Joe Flacco. Oh, wait.
So
That's
we're
Eli.
not going after Chase McDanielson for this backup quarterback job.
Chance McDanielson should be the one guy that you
Should
actually
be
go
the
after.
number one guy.
Chance McDanielson and Gardner Minshew. That's it. You know, if it's not Shane Bichelle, Chance or Gardner.
I feel like Gardner's got a little too much ambition left in him.
I agree.
You know?
I think that's
he's
the same
like,
issue.
He's going to immediately plot on like, okay, how can I overtake this job? He could totally Tanya Harding it. How can I overtake number 15, okay?
Really?
Oh, he's
Why?
like, look at that guy.
Why?
Yes.
We're going to see Mahomes in like a hallway.
Why do we always make fun of
I
Kerrigan
know.
for...
I don't
You just
know.
did it.
I know. I
feel
agree.
so bad.
I feel bad. Like,
SNL did skits. I'm like,
Right.
she got clubbed
She's the
by a
one-
metal bar
Do you understand?
on her knee.
her whole life and the work
Yes.
and the building up to
The
that.
biggest moment of your
right
life.
before, and then her knees destroyed.
Yes.
because
And the
they had a
movie, is it
rival-
called I, Nancy?
Right.
It's iRobot, actually, is
It's
what you're thinking.
That's what I was going back
We
to.
have
yeah.
never victim shamed more than what we did to Nancy Kerrigan.
So right.
God, that always made me mad.
wrong.
On Spot Track, I sorted quarterbacks by oldest, just to try to find the real range here.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, that's okay.
I got another point, though.
Okay. Brady, 46, obviously. Aaron Rodgers, 40. And then it's Brian Hoyer, Matt Ryan, Chad Henne, Joe Flacco, Colt McCoy, Josh Johnson, Chase Daniel, Andy Dalton. A bunch of guys who could be in that backup quarterback conversation. Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, Ryan Tannehill. One of those guys has a $245 million total value contract. Those old men
I have
there.
no idea. No idea who it would be.
Amazing.
He's the last rookie to win a playoff game,
That's right. I heard that.
before this
Unreal.
year.
I heard that somewhere.
And they made the movie about Tanya, and not only that, who'd they get to play her?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, the hottest human on the planet.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, Harding became a star by
Didn't Amy-
committing a felony.
Didn't Amy Adams play Tanya Harding too?
Ooh, that sounds.
I don't know. I'm on it.
Wasn't I mean I thought she did.
Are there multiple movies?
Yeah, I think
She kind of looks like her.
I think it's just that they look alike is all.
Yeah.
That's also what I'm seeing is that people say they look alike, which is kind of wild.
maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what I was thinking is that they went with that. But Chase Daniel made $2 million last year, which is exactly what Chad Henne
Sign
made.
me up.
So you're looking at.
I think he's still. Does he still have a house here? I know he golfs here a lot during the off season.
If he doesn't have a house here,
He could
I'm
probably
gonna
afford
guess
one.
he can afford it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess in his career earnings.
I mean, how many teams would that be for him at that point? That's got to be close to double digits.
Well, Chiefs would be doubling up. Saints,
true, yeah.
Chiefs, Eagles, Saints again, Bears, Lions, Chargers. So 6 teams. So he's played for the Saints twice and maybe the Chiefs twice.
So it'd be almost like 10 moves he's made.
He has made $42 million in his career.
You know what?
He's thrown 42 passes.
He owes me $100, really. Or somebody does. Maybe the guy I gave the $100 to. I bet coming out of the draft in whatever year that was, 09, whatever year we're doing that.
09.
I bet my buddy, he's like, no way, Chase Daniel gets drafted.
McDanielson.
Yeah. I said, no, he's absolutely getting drafted. and so he didn't get drafted.
No, he did not.
I paid him $100, but he's still in the league 14 years later. Are you kidding me?
Well, you don't get $100 though, because that wasn't the bet.
It wasn't the bet, but I feel like he should have been drafted. If we went back and redrafted that 09 draft, he would definitely be like 5th rounder.
I can't remember who won the bet on Tim Tebow. It was Jake and Seren, and there was a very your heels dug in argument, opposite sides, shocking, with Seren and Jake about Tim Tebow being a first-round draft pick, and they bet some money on it. And I don't know.
Jake probably said
I
yes,
don't know
he should
who
be.
had Tim Tebow as a first rounder and who didn't. I don't remember, but it was essentially the
I'm
argument
guessing
was
Seren didn't.
I don't know though. Like Seren might have, because Seren's it only takes one. It just takes one particular team to like you. That's it. And
Or
it took the
Seren
Broncos.
just might have been like, dug deep into like, okay, here's what his attributes are, and here's what
absolutely
NFL teams are looking for. And Jake was.
But I could also see Jake. I could also.
He's so good. I'm just caught up in the.
But I could also see Jake on the opposite, going, he is awful. Like he sucks. There is no chance somebody will take him in the first round. He can't throw a football. He's god awful. They did a behind the scenes before the draft of him changing how he throws the football because he can't do it. Like it was Tim Tebow.
Where did he get drafted?
First round to the Broncos at like
teens somewhere,
number.
right?
No, it was like 24.
Okay.
Was it that low? I was thinking
I
like
think he
17
was like,
for some reason.
Well, I think he was like 24 or something
Might
like
have
that.
been.
You know what?
Early 20, 25 overall, Jason, you idiot.
Yeah, like
Chase
24.
Daniels should have been drafted ahead of Tim Tebow.
Well, one's still in the league. The other one tried baseball. and
Boy,
moved to
I
tight end.
completely deleted that from. I forgot about the tight end thing too.
Yeah.
Good
What?
lord.
Is he done with baseball?
Yeah, I think
Baseball's
he's
done
Got
with
to
him,
like
I
the
think.
AAA level. I mean, good for him.
He's
kind of a
obviously-
AAA quarterback too.
He's obviously an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Jordan even showed
It's
that you
another
don't
guy
just
we
show
hated
up
on too much, right?
Agreed.
Just basically because he put all his beliefs out there.
Whoa, hold on. We're all agreeing we were too mad or too mean to the homeschooler? Weird. Wow.
There we go.
Any lessons we could learn from that one
You know
going
what? I
forward?
forgot he was homeschooled. Screw that guy. God, I forgot. I hate Tim Tebow.
Here's the thing. I think that whole thing is conflated with his beliefs, and so people hated on him. I think people hated on him because he wasn't a good quarterback. So it was like, no, he's
people hated him in Florida.
No, I'm talking about like, here are his beliefs, so therefore I'm going to root against him because he's religious.
But I think a lot of times when
That's
people
been conflated.
put religion out there kind of in your face all the time, that's going to bring some ire.
Well, I mean, maybe, but I think there's a lot of people that, there's a number of NFL players that would do that start the conversation with, first and foremost, want to give thanks to Almighty God.
Because obviously he's not an Eagles fan.
That's exactly right. He is definitely not. Thankfully, thank you, God, for not being an Eagles fan.
Well, I mean,
not a big fan of you being a Bengals fan last year, but, you made up for it.
He's
okay?
always switching affiliations, right?
You know
he's
what?
Like
He didn't
Drake.
let the Bengals win the whole thing.
He's like Drake God.
Here's the thing,
Hold
God.
on, we got to unpack this one.
Here's the thing, God. You're forgiven for being a Bengals fan last year.
Isn't Drake the guy that just bounces
Yes.
around at different
It's
teams?
Drake God.
Yes, God and Drake have the same closet of sports memorabilia. It's just it's a jersey for every team.
But he's always, they're always
Wow.
supporting people. They're not haters.
That's right.
I'm just gonna move on. You know what? I've given, if in the case of Drake, the Raptors enough attention. Now I'm a Warriors guy, and whoever
right.
else.
Somebody needs
And
to.
I'm going to go into the Kentucky layup line.
That too.
And God occasionally gets involved when it's like the David Tyree catch. Like that was God. Most people don't know that, but God actually was like, "Oh, this should be fun. I'm going to go ahead and just hop in on this one here." And boom, now magic is happening. It's fascinating.
Where was he
Stop
when
guessing the helmet catch.
Where was he when Deshaun Watson got 230 fully guarantee?
God doesn't get into the books really. That's sort of he leaves that up to.
That makes sense.
I mean,
us.
humans
winning.
created money. He
Yeah.
did not. We did.
Exactly. It's
You know
exactly right.
That's true. They didn't make the playoffs, okay?
His
hey, Jason,
plan was
what do you want me to do?
money or any of this to never exist, but then we know who messed
Hey,
up.
Jason, were they good?
Football-
No. You're welcome.
Football in the Garden of Eden would have had no injuries. Patrick Mahomes would have had Jamal Charles on his team. Like we would have. Look, man,
It's a great point.
threw it all away.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah.
Somebody ate the Eli apple.
Oh, we know who it was. Somebody.
Tebow.
No, it was Eve 6.
It's funny. That's a good joke. I don't think it was as good as my Eli Apple joke, but we all kind of had jokes to get in there, And sometimes the best one gets trampled because everyone's got a joke,
They're both fine. No, I mean, none of them are winning, And I say that as somebody who hasn't had a winner yet. I'm still looking for that first one. So I'm going to
Eve and Eve 6 were like one-hit wonders, both of them.
I'm gonna downgrade everybody else's so I can then inflate my own. which is what I tried to
Eve6
do in
has more
college. a
Twitter
number of times.
followers.
God nor Drake would do that.
Nope. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. Well, sometimes Drake thinks he is God, though. He's part of it.
Maybe he.
Oh, we could be the Kansas City Serpents. Think about that.
I'll take the Chiefs.
I like Slayer. Royals backwards. Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah, I
All
thought
the
you meant
MLB teams spelled backwards.
I thought you meant the
The
band.
Royals would be Slayer.
the KC
That
Slayers.
rules.
And the best one is the Astros would be Sorza, and so everybody's like, so did they legitimately win that World Series title? Sorza.
By the way, Dusty Baker.
Sorza.
Did you hear Dusty Baker? And he wasn't on the team. Okay, he wasn't on the team, but it still is a little tone deaf. Dusty Baker's talking about the pitch clock and saying that it's going to make it more difficult for pitchers and everything because you got people that are going to try to steal signs and everything. And somebody replied and said, yeah, maybe try a trash can or something. You could even do something like that. Like you could, I get it. Baker wasn't there, but probably not the spot for the Houston Astros manager to go, I don't like this because you're going to have teams trying to steal signs. Well, you guys would know about that.
Mick Shaffer is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food, try it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
We were hanging out with Mick Shaffer from NBC 41 Action News. Mitch, you were on all these, or Mick, geez Louise.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer. Some fun college basketball coming up this weekend. You know, we were talking about a little look ahead with like NCAA tournament stuff as well. That I like getting into the weeds of that, and we were discussing like, okay, so
You gotta go to Missouri for that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but you know what? I can gamble on whether or not I'm going to get into the weeds right here. The selection committee.
If you have a lot of weed, is it weeds plural or is just I just have weed singular? Like
Beards, do you know? I'm looking for something.
Sir, I'll take one weed, please. Thank you. Here's my money. Do you know what place where I can get a weed? That'd be.
Well,
that'd be
I got
awesome.
a lot of people coming over. I need weeds.
Did you know this? Sorry, this isn't funny, but that's never stopped me before. Did you know that there is no definition for what a weed is? We're not doing marijuana jokes now. I'm talking about lawn. Like, it's just an unwanted plant, unwanted growth. Anything can be a weed. Which, like,
So
clover lawns are kind of coming back, and we've got a bunch of clover. Clover are a quote-unquote weed because weed killer kills them.
Like a mole.
Yeah.
It's like I got this weed on my back.
Nutgrass. It's weed. Poana.
Yep.
Kind of a weed. I guess kind of a grass, too.
Didn't know about that.
One or two weeds.
Could have been an LFB, but I forgot about it till just now.
So even with, I think KU's a 1 seed even if they lose their next 2 games.
I
so
agree.
Lose tomorrow and then lose.
Honestly, I think they should be 1-1 right now, but they're apparently not.
Yeah, I mean,
got to weed out the rest of the competition.
Bracket Matrix has them as the 3rd 1 seed. But we were talking like, okay, does KU go and do everything they can to win at Texas and play? And Bill Self has already said, yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Or essentially no. It's like, do you change anything? No, or hell no. Yeah, they're going to go to Texas and they're going to try to win that game because the number 1 overall seed will pick their region, where you want to go. And then if you want Kansas City, if you're KU, you might need to be the number 2 overall.
You might just
team
be ahead of Houston, right?
To make sure, yeah, and if Houston's number 1, is Houston going to pick KC? Do they pick Vegas? Do they want to go to there? Do they pick Louisville? Where do they go? I doubt they would pick New York. But if you're the second, if, let's say Houston picks Louisville and Alabama is the second team on the line, well, then Alabama's going to be sent to Kansas City probably. Or maybe, I guess, New York, depending on that. And then if you're...
Does Alabama get a pick, or are they just sent after
the number
Houston
1
picks? Okay.
Number 1 after that, it's going to be geography. So there is something to play for tomorrow, and the next week is an opportunity to go to Des Moines and then to Kansas City. And then, you win 4 games, you're heading down to Houston. They're going to be in Des Moines, regardless. So you can go ahead and book those tickets if you're a KU fan.
K-State's in Des Moines, too.
I think so, too.
That 2 line, it's, yeah. And it obviously would be in a different pod. But
right, but they would both be up there, and that would Des Moines would certainly appreciate that.
And the last bracketology had Mizzou there too as KU's number 8.
Right, and well, like we were talking about, like the different bracketologies that are like Bracket Matrix takes all the brackets that there's like 90 that they're using. Sometimes there's like 110, but they only update it with like new ones, and so there's like 86 brackets right now, and Mizzou's like an 8 or a 9 there. But Jerry Palm has them as a 5, and so. It just depends on, what the selection committee is going to value. The fact that they have no bad loss, the fact that they've got 9 quad 1 and quad 2 wins combined.
I think if they win Saturday, senior day, against Ole Miss, well, like that LSU game, like you better win that. And they barely did.
Almost a bad team.
They are, and then they get, the double bye and get 1 win and you're in the semifinals. I think they have to be off that 8-9 kind of line.
Just get off the
6-7.
Get off the 7 to 10.
Right.
So then if you don't have to play the 1 or the 2 in the second round. You take a 3.
And it's funny. I wouldn't say KU's the best team in college basketball. It's the whole deserving part. I mean, they've got 15 quad 1 wins.
Unbelievable.
They could easily win the best league we've seen in 20 years, right? By 2 games, right? So all those other factors factoring in and just kind of on paper, they almost deserve it more than they kind of look the part of the 1 seed, but I don't think Houston looks like the best team in the country, nor really Alabama a lot of times.
If KU wins their next 4 games, they can be the number 1 overall seed.
Yes.
That starts tomorrow down in Texas. And K-State can be a 2 seed, not only in the Big 12 tournament, but in the NCAA tournament. I've said it a couple times today. This is the most remarkable college basketball season that we could see KU a 1, K-State a 2, and Mizzou a 3 seed in the SEC tournament. It's amazing.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
And I'm going to be doing some deep lunges.
Yeah, it won't be
down
distracting at all.
And back up. That's right.
Won't be distracting at all.
Make that booty pop.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director.
Just directed Josh's sports right there.
About damn time.
I highlighted something for you to read.
Yes. Dennis Dodd and at CBS reporting that the Big 12 recently renewed contact with 4 Pac-12 schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, as the contract negotiations for the TV network for the Pac-12 are floundering right now.
A few months ago, I said, forget about Colorado. They left. Prime in the fold. Okay. Bring him in.
Colorado might be interesting now.
And then when he leaves in 4 years for a better job, kick him out.
Well, no,
Colorado the hell out of here.
Then we're gonna have Eric Bieniemy in the Big 12. That'll be fun.
There you go. Yes, he'll be his first head coaching job.
Yes, it will.
Why can't Eric Bieniemy is now coordinating the number 1 offense in Washington? Why can't he get a job? Well, really, I mean, it's Ron Rivera that kind of runs the team, but it's his offense. Yeah, but it's Ron's team. He's just the assistant head coach. Does he even know what it would take to be a regular head coach?
He's going to need to prove it at the college level, and not FBS, really, kind of like Division II.
I feel like if he can prove that he's a high school head coach.
Blue Valley Northwest head coach.
Go be an offense. Go show me you can coordinate a high school offense. Then we're talking, okay? Go be Matt Moore, okay, and be an offensive coordinator.
No. And make sure you do it away from Matt Moore, because we can't have any. I want Eric Bieniemy to go Disney original movie sort of style, just to get 14 kids from some rough and tumble neighborhood who've never seen a football before. Maybe they're from overseas. Maybe you go the Karlaftis route. Oh, yeah. Send Eric Bieniemy to Greece, and I want him to start the Greek American Football League with no one who's ever seen an American football before. Then he can have a head coaching job at a high school.
I think that's the proper route, right?
It's the route he should take. Prove it to me.
I'm from Missouri. You got to show me. So Dennis Dodd reporting that the Big 12 is now renewing contact with Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. The 4 schools have more recently had contact with the Big 12. Sources tell Dennis Dodd the interest of the Four Corners schools leaving for the Big 12 has picked up in recent weeks as Pac-12 media rights negotiations have stalled, moving into a 9th month. There's been a lot of conversation about if they were to go to a streaming platform with Apple and the roughly 40 million subscribers total at Apple. What's that going to do for the Pac-12's TV network? Amazon, Apple TV, networks, major networks have already, pulled out, which is ESPN is all that's left, really. ESPN and then like some your streaming providers. Mm-hmm. So there's a difficult position that they are sitting in, and they're already going to be falling behind when it comes to the money in these other conferences. And USC and UCLA are leaving for the Big Ten. So now the Pac-12 is these schools, hey, we're open for business again. Hey, you know what? Remember those conversations we were having earlier, and then we kind of just shut them off because we were like, oh, we're all happy here in the Pac-12, which is what we've talked about. I mean, the Big 12 schools have been through this a decade ago. How happy are you? Well, we're in the same room right now, so I'm very happy. And when we leave, I'm making phone calls just to see how happy I am versus what are my options? Would Chris Rock say a man is only as happy as his options, or he's only as loyal as his options or committed as options? Like the Pac-12 schools are only as loyal to the Pac-12 as their options are available.
Did you see what the Giants GM said today when he was asked about maybe taking a quarterback in this year's class?
New York or San Francisco?
New York. Well, the quarterback is what would tip it off
San
for me. But
probably looking at offensive line.
He said, quote, "You never let a girlfriend stop you from finding a wife." Okay. I can't tell what's real and what's fake anymore, but there's a picture of the guy at the podium here. So
I worked with
Joe
a girl once who used to say, like, don't you have a boyfriend? She's like, I'm always taking applications to put on file.
I worked with a guy a long time ago that said never stop a wife from finding a girlfriend.
that too.
Never have a wife stop you from finding a girlfriend.
I worked with a guy that said marriage is just a piece of paper. Oh, no, that was me.
You were the one that said the other thing, too.
That's what I was saying. A guy you used to work with. No, he's still in the studio with you.
I was trying
a
to
friend of mine.
I was
just kidding. I don't have any of those.
I was providing cover, Josh. Okay.
Look, he admitted it first. I didn't blow up anybody's spot.
Yes.
My good friend Sick Mayfer said.
Jamie Foxx once told me.
Pac-12's got issues.
More issues than Sports Illustrated.
Oklahoma and Texas. If they get schools from the Pac-12, if the Big 12 gets schools from the Pac-12, Oklahoma and Texas might have helped save the Big 12. Because the Big 12 was landlocked, and they're going to be poached by different schools. Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. USC and UCLA were like, bleep this. We're getting money. We're going to the Big Ten, which then completely fractured the foundation of the Pac-12 and turned that conference into being unsettled. And so then they thought, can we migrate east to the Big 12? And now the Big 12 is no longer landlocked between conferences that don't
There was a little kind of canal that took them to West Virginia, right?
But I mean, yeah, but right now, like landlocked right now, they're not getting schools from the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC. And until USC and UCLA left, they weren't getting schools from the Pac-12. Then Oklahoma and Texas head to the SEC. USC and UCLA head to the Big Ten, and it has opened up, moving
they
west
went
for
from
the Big 12.
The hunted to the hunters,
Yes.
right? They were content with where they were on the food chain, and then realized, okay, we're now 65 million years ago. We need to just prey, on people.
So
PREY and PRAY.
Yes, the Big Ten, CBS, Fox, NBC, SEC, ABC, and ESPN. They have massive contracts until the 2030s. ACC's locked in with the exclusive contract with ESPN and the grant of rights and all of those things. The Big 12, ESPN and Fox negotiating a new deal early, allowing them to jump ahead of the Pac-12 schools. So they got their agreement until 2031. And now, where's the money? And if you're ESPN, you're like, yeah, we can pay for the Pac-12, or, well, we can get some of these schools over to the Big 12, and then we don't have to worry about paying for the Pac-12 because you've lost USC and UCLA because they're going to CBS, Fox, and NBC in the Big Ten. So ESPN's not going to get those schools. So do you want to then pay for the rest of the Pac-12 or get those schools into the Big 12 that you've already negotiated for? Because networks have a big part of this that we know is going on, and so then you're streaming. So how much is Apple or Amazon going to pay for Pac-12? And Amazon's getting into it because watching the next sporting game, you're going to have to pay for the MLS package if you're going to watch sporting at Apple TV Plus, because that first one was free and it's no longer free now.
You got to get Apple TV and then pay for the package. It's like in NFL, not network, but the package, right? The Sunday
ticket, and that's
was like okay, you had to have the direct TV and then pay on top of that.
Well, it's like Sunday Ticket or MLB Extra Innings, except for no blackouts. Except for with Sunday Ticket, you can't watch the Chiefs if you're here. You can't watch the Royals if you're here if you got MLB Extra Innings, which all of that should go away. It's all dumb, the blackouts and the restrictions and all of that stuff. But soccer is not having that because there aren't the regional sports networks or the local TV. It's just simply all on Apple TV Plus. And by the way, the production was
great.
Pretty damn
I was
good.
about to bring that up. It was so good. I think it was it Max Britos that did the sporting game on Monday? Was that who it was? Former Sports Center anchor and underwear model as well.
Interesting.
I think it was him, and whoever it was, they did a great job. Nate's involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nate's on the call for this
him
game.
And Tony
here.
Miola are on the call.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
But then I mean, the quality of the cameras there, sparkling HD, just the amount of replays they got in there. You could tell it was soccer people that knew, okay, we've got time here, right? We can get this replay in the halftime show and all that stuff. That was the biggest deal with like ESPN Plus. Now I didn't want to pay for more for what turned into like some marquee games you're putting on there. But the announcing crews are just so green. The production is so poor. You've got way less cameras. They're not as, they're not the 4K, right? They're just, it feels like a JV broadcast. That felt like a high-class broadcast.
ESPN Plus. I mean, for ESPN being, Disney and the mothership of all of the sports broadcasting, and to have this outlet where you've got all these basketball games you can watch. And I get it, you're spread pretty thin if you're going to offer all of those basketball games. But there's a lot of talent out there that you could bring in to have some of these guys do. But the production value just lacks. I was watching the Detroit and Youngstown State game last night because Antoine Davis was trying to break the Pistol Pete record. He did not. He fell 3 points shy. He missed 3 threes in the final minute, and he fell 3 points shy.
They're now talking about maybe inviting them to the CBI, I believe.
Oh, really?
So he could, a couple tweets about
that's,
that.
Okay, whatever.
He's already played like 60 more games. Than Pete,
they're like 14 and 18. Like you would only be inviting him just to see if Antoine Davis can score 4 points.
Yes,
to break the record. So I'm watching that game. And actually, you know what? It was Cleveland State. It was Cleveland State and Youngstown State. They're playing each other, and it's at the end of the game. Cleveland State is trailing. They tie the game up. The other team gets the ball. They shoot. They pass it. It's stolen by Cleveland State. They're going to throw a half-court shot, and a guy hits his arm and bodies him. And the dude just falls over, and they blow the whistle and call a foul. It's like the clock's reading 0. And they blow the whistle like, oh, my God, Cleveland State is going to come back from trailing in this game. And again, it might not have even been Youngstown. I don't even know who it was.
Youngstown was playing Detroit.
Okay, so Youngstown, Detroit. So Cleveland State played somebody else in the Horizon League.
I'm on it.
Didn't Pete Maravich's dad coach at Cleveland State?
Might have
callback.
Here's the main thing: Youngstown State, they're the Penguins. It's the greatest mascot in college history.
They are the Penguins.
Was Cleveland State playing the Robert Morris Colonials?
Robert Morris.
There we go.
Robert Morris. So
you narrowed it down. One of those 8 teams you mentioned.
Robert Morris. There we go.
So you were watching Suns Hornets.
That's right. And so the XFL. So I'm watching the.
So Adrian McCarron's out there.
This is my kid's game.
So I was watching my son's basketball game, and it was great.
They legalized it in Missouri, and Jason went way too hard, way too fast.
I told you I'm looking for one weed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be.
Now we know why.
That Thursday night's going to be fun. Let me tell you.
So anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off. You were staring at a poster of Pete Maravich in your bedroom.
It's a weird fever dream you had.
Started talking to you.
It's weird. It's actually Press Maravich that I was staring at a poster of. So Cleveland State comes back. Robert Morris is leading. They're winning. It's at Cleveland State. And it's like 30 seconds. Cleveland State's trailing. They come back and tie it up. Robert Morris gets the ball, drives down. They pass to a guy that was cutting. It looked like it was there. But Cleveland State player cuts in front, catches the ball, takes a couple dribbles. The clock's running out. He goes to heave it. And for whatever reason, a Robert Morris player just goes and grabs his arm and hits him. Boom, foul called, right?
What?
So there's 0 seconds on the clock. Foul called.
He's going to make all 3?
They go to the monitor to see if he was fouled before the clock ran out or not. Because the clock is sitting at 0.
Sure, yeah.
So they go to the monitor. We sat there and heard the play-by-play announcer and the color commentator discuss whether or not they got the shot off. Then they showed a replay. They showed a replay from a different camera that didn't have the clock on it, that couldn't see the scoreboards to see if it flashed red. 5 minutes passes. We're just waiting and waiting. The teams are in their huddles, and I'm like, you can't just show the game replay. The game replay had the clock. It's the whole court. They start showing the game replay, and right as he's going to shoot the ball, they're showing the they just announced no foul. The time ran out. We could have seen that 5 minutes ago. I'm just sitting there how do they not have a... And it's like ESPN Plus. I'm glad that I got to watch the game because it was a great ending. Cleveland State ended up winning. Tristan Anaruna playing for
really?
For
Holy
Cleveland.
cow, no
kidding. For Cleveland State. Did not play for Dennis Gates Cleveland State. He transferred to Cleveland State this year. So I thought that was a fun little tie-in, right? And I'm like, I can't watch the replay. It was absurd. I'm just like, can we see if he was fouled or not?
Let me rewind and I will find out.
So then I was watching on my phone. So my phone app ESPN Plus doesn't allow me to rewind. My iPad ESPN Plus allows me to rewind.
Man, you were really into this game.
I just wanted to rewind and see it for myself. Like, did he get fouled
That's so
before the time ran out or
You
not?
need a producer and director on these games that not only know TV, they've got to know the sport as well.
Right.
They've got to know the sport.
Like, we can't just sit there and talk about whether he got... That is huge. Robert Morris' season is about to be over if that foul was with .2 or .3. Cleveland say it's going to come from 4 down in the last minute.
Going to have his scholarship revoked at that.
Right.
They were riding back on the team bus.
They're going to go from down 4 with a minute to go and end on a 7-0 run because they got 3 free throws with .1 or .2. It was fouled after the time, and then Cleveland State won in overtime. So it didn't matter. They still won the game. But I'm watching. I'm like, why do I have to log in every time I go to ESPN Plus to watch a game?
No, it's the worst.
Every time. I don't have to do that Apple TV. I didn't have to do that with Amazon when I was watching the Thursday night games.
I wish for the betting apps you didn't have to, but I kind of understand that a little bit more.
That's
I'm just imagining your family just kind of watching over your shoulders, like, when's Daddy going to be done watching Cleveland State and Robert Morris? Is that a guy or is that a team, Robert Morris?
Does Robert Morris live in the state of Cleveland? And what is it? Cleveland isn't even a state. What is it? What is going on? No, that was like 10:15. Those games started at like 8 o'clock.
Tristan Urena averaging about 15.5 points this year.
I think he had like 19 last night. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. So anyway,
23 last night.
See, like I said, he had 23. Well, I think he had 19 until overtime. You know,
yeah, played 39 minutes.
Like I said, Antoine Davis, he did not break the record. And also,
Go
Apple
Penguins.
TV, their product is the production is really good. So if the Pac-12 were to be on Apple TV, the production, I think, would have a lot of value to it.
You would hope. But I mean, ESPN has a lot of value to it, right? And then you get ESPN Plus.
But then
SEC Network Plus, I feel like those games are a lot better.
SEC Network, yeah. If you're
than the ESPN Plus games.
If you watch any Mizzou fan, you've watched an SEC Network game. Or watched any Mizzou game, you've watched an SEC Network game. It's Sunvold. It's what you're going to get.
Tom Hart.
Yes, Tom Hart and Sunvold. There are some.
No, it's not always them.
Where it's been like, Fishback, do we maybe go with somebody else. But when Sunvold's on the call, that's legit, and it's SEC Network. But with the Pac-12, then it's 40 million subscribers to Apple TV. How much money are you going to get that you're going to be able to disperse between the remaining schools to try to even compete with the Big 12, to compete with some of these other conferences, because you're going to get left behind. It's why Florida State is now having their Board of Trustees meetings and discussing buyouts and media rights and what it will take to get out of the ACC by giving up their grant of rights to go somewhere else, because the ACC does not have equal distribution, right? They have like a weighted distribution or something like that. And so Florida State's like, yeah, we're doing all of this and we're getting only this amount back. Like, we should be getting even more than what we're getting. We're going to start falling behind. Like, they're discussing what it's going to cost for them to give up their grant of rights for 10 years. I mean, grant of rights till 2032. Like, it's different for Oklahoma and Texas to negotiate their way out because it was like one more year. It wasn't a decade where Florida State's like, yeah, we signed over our grant of rights till the 2030s. How do we get out of this? You take a big hit in money, and you're hoping you can catch up over the years. And in 15 years, you would have made up what you lost along the way instead of still being in the ACC. But that's how bad it's getting for them. Is like, what? How do we examine the next 10 years of losing a grant of rights? Yeah. And these Pac-12 schools, how do they sit there and go, yeah, we're fine. We're in a good spot. That these networks are all saying no, thank you. That ESPN, is the only one that's left to negotiate with. Essentially, everybody else has said no, thank you. Like, you're in a tough spot at that point. Now the Big 12 looks pretty good. They look healthy. The Big 12 looks like even without Oklahoma and Texas, TCU played for a national title. I mean, K-State played in the Big 12 championship against TCU. Oklahoma and Texas, they weren't there. They were not there. So if you're a Pac-12 school, you can say that becomes more of a viable option.
You have Texas that they're churning through coaches every 3 or 4 years now, right? And then you had a great coach in Lincoln Riley jumping ship for
USC,
a Pac-12 team that is now a
Big Ten team. Big Ten team. Yeah, not a Big 12 coach.
Yes,
that's
Big 12.
That's in the
Pac-12, Big 10, Big 12. Kind of you smash them together.
The
Pac-10, which used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
That's right.
The Pig 10, right?
That makes.
Ooh, I like
the Pig Twin. The Pig Twin.
The Pig Twin.
God, I am just here for the puns. But no, it's like they've shifted all the problems, keep moving them west, right? Because it was a problem for a decade, like you said, or more here in the Midwest and in the Big 12, and even though it's been the same since 2011, right? And now
12,
we're finally 11 football season. Last one.
Right.
Yep. Now we're changing it. I think everybody always anticipated, okay, something the next shoe's going to drop, and it finally did.
But also there was an anticipation of this was going to dissolve eventually. Like this is a marriage of convenience, and eventually it's just going to you're delaying the inevitable with the grant of rights and signing the TV deals. Like teams are going to be elsewhere. You're just sort of here and biding your time in purgatory until you find out where your destination is going to be.
Everyone's like, well, you're going to end up in the Mountain West, and now it's the Washington and Oregon teams.
Yeah.
Poor Mountain West. It's like Nancy Kerrigan just kept in strays right and left, right? Well, no, you're going to end up Mountain West. Well,
so who's Tanya Harding? Is that the Big 12?
Is
Big 12 going to the Pac-12 and taking a billy club to the knees of George Kliavkov, the commissioner? They're leaving for the Big 12, and he's rolling on the floor. Why? Why? Again, no reason for Nancy to catch an L there.
Man, who started this whole thing? We blaming Nebraska or Mizzou? Was there a round before that of another league?
I would say probably
teams that left.
Probably Miami and BC leaving the Big East for the ACC. Kind of started it. Then the ACC getting more teams from the Big East when they stole Syracuse and Pitt.
Well, and the Big 12 expanded in 96. SEC expanded like 92, I think.
Big 12 took some schools, and it's like, oh, why are you taking schools from the Big 12? We hate when we lose schools, but then you're doing it to the AAC and the Big Ten's grabbing Rutgers and Maryland.
There's just going to be 4 original Big 8 teams left, right? Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and both Kansas schools.
Yep.
That's it. And really, Colorado and Oklahoma State were Big 7, or made it Big 7, Big 8. There's only going to be 3 Big 6 teams left, which I guess that's still half of them.
Yeah.
In Iowa State.
But if you
KU
get Colorado back, then you've got a Big 8 school. You're getting a Big 8 school back. Exchanging.
You would, yes.
Exchanging Texas, a Big 12 school, if you
absolutely.
can get Colorado back into the Big 8 to the Big 12, 14,
I think we're
16.
just going in one big circle, and in 2060, it's going to be back to the Big 8.
They're at 14 with Oklahoma and Texas. Mm-hmm. And then they're
they're
down to 12.
They'll be back to the Big 12,
right? But then adding the 4 Pac-12 schools, they'd be the Big 12 that has 16.
16, yes, absolutely.
Big 16 sounds pretty good.
I would just at that point you know what, you slave to the number like that's the number you have. Put that in the title,
or just don't name your conference the number of schools you have in it. Name your the Atlantic Coastal Conference. Go that Big East.
Yes.
That the Mountain West. Although now you're getting directions, so that's still sort of messing
so let's
it up.
rename the Big 12. What should the Big 12 actually be named?
I've done this. I've written.
I don't think I've gone through this.
I've never written down a name I like the Prairie Conference. That's just soft.
Yeah.
That's soft.
And you go too Midwestern, and then you start now all of a sudden you're alienating your new coastal schools.
Ooh, American. Damn it.
I think
that doesn't work.
The National American Conference.
National NAU.
NAU.
One day, one night. You know what? Playing football on Saturdays, all right.
How about the Kansas
watching games online is just fine. Nighttime, anytime.
Beard, you got to start when you got a one-liner when Jason's on a roll. You got to just max out your slider and just fully go in.
Max out your slider.
How about the Kansas Basketball Conference?
Great joke, Beards.
That's a good one.
Great joke.
That's a good one, Coach Jones. I like that. Yeah, the Kansas
you think
basketball.
about, there are very few conferences and leagues and divisions in all of sports that don't reference like a number or be like geography.
It's almost like geography was sort of the governing idea behind all of this before money took over.
Thank you.
No, that's not true.
Hello?
No, it wasn't about playing like-minded universities that were close to you or anything like that.
It made sense, like just conveniently to go from point A to point B. Why is big in multiple conferences, by the way? That feels unreasonable.
I blame advancements in transportation.
Yes,
for the reason,
exactly.
This couldn't have happened 100 years ago.
The damn rail system.
If this was on trains,
there's no chance West Virginia would be in the Big 12.
That's the thing. You're asking, was this
no
Missouri?
No chance USC's going to the Big 10 in
was this Missouri?
1923.
Was it Nebraska? No.
It was Boeing.
It was the New Deal.
Oh.
It was the New Deal.
Yeah.
Let's really go back to where everything happened. Highways and byways.
Are we calling this the Louisiana Purchase Conference?
Well, what I'm saying is, that's a great idea, Beards. I was just about to say that really the Louisiana Purchase got in the way here. Imagine if all the schools were just, you know what? If we had 13 colonies, we would just have all the schools on that side of the not the country at that point. We'd have all the schools on that side of the territory.
Did they call themselves the Big 13? At that point, now they're like the Big 50. Like, why did we call ourselves?
I was like, DC should probably be a state. Oh man, are you kidding me? We were going to put another star.
Big 12, the Pacific Purchase, because they're moving west. The PPC.
What if we call it something trails, maybe? Something that we get kind of Oregon Trail-y?
Santa Caligon.
Santa Caligon days.
The Dysentery Conference.
Oregon Trail.
That's right.
We call it the Oregon Trail Conference. That's weird because I don't think Oregon's going to be in it.
Yeah,
but
that would just be an insult to them.
Gateway Conference.
The Heartland.
Heartland is pretty good.
Heartlandia.
The Heart is an NAIA
Again, that's
conference.
kinda-
The Heartland, like
is-
the team
is
that
something.
won the game.
Yeah.
Heartland does make it.
It's kinda
the
soft,
Victoria-
too,
Yeah, it's
though.
definitely not
It's
going to be
very
the Electric
soft.
Conference, Beards. That's a great point. Is that your guys' team name?
Ooh, every organ in your body conference, not just the heart.
Ooh, wow.
Because
The
then it
Pancreas Conference.
encompasses the entire country. Because you got the liver,
Yeah.
Texas, the bowels. You got a lot of things.
Josh, I don't think you want it to be the Pancreas Conference, do you?
I would buy the merch. I think it'd be pretty funny.
See, it's hard to come up with a good name.
I get it now. It just call it big something.
The Big Conference.
Big.
Super Conference.
TBC.
Basically
like
what the
it.
Big Ten goes by.
Yeah,
The
they're
Big
just
Conference.
the big.
We're hiding 10 inside of our logo.
You know, just call it the bigger conference. Bigger conference. Oh,
The big. No, Jason. Biggest. The biggest conference. Checkmate Big Ten.
Call it the good, better, best conference. That would work.
Mick Shaffer in the Zone is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon, home of the 2-story biscuit sandwiches from Denver Biscuit Company all morning, New York-style hand-tossed pizza all afternoon and evening from Fat Sully's, and 20 beers on tap all the time. Experience it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I do want to weigh in on this, too, as all joking aside. Those were jokes. Didn't result in laughs, but it was an attempt.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Got some other conference name ideas coming in?
Excellent.
Yeah. Go Big Conference.
Leon Liebel texted me. The Big Great.
The Big Great is. I like trying to play off the 8.
Or just like the Big Bigger.
Ooh.
The Big Huge.
The Just Right. Let's go Goldilocks.
The Big Lebowski.
Oh! Yeah, that's it.
Mick!
Yeah, Mick from downtown. Mick from.
But that's only a basketball cut. What about
Mick
football?
from deep.
We'll change it for each sport.
The Big Lafutsky. Lafutsky. Text coming in 913-912-4810.
Go Big Laowski.
Go Big
football.
Conference. Big Time Conference. The Grower Conference.
Ooh, that's good.
Coast to Almost Coast Conference. CTACC.
You could call it the Big Bigger, and then the divisions would be Growers and Showers.
Yes. The Rest or What's Left Conference. New conference name. Plus size dozen-ish.
Conference Mick Conference Face.
Yes.
Transcontinental Super Conference.
I like the Super Continental Conference. Continental Breakfast Conference.
The I Know You Are, but What Am I Conference. Kind of like that one.
The La Liga. Let's spell it our way.
Infinity Conference. There you go. The Big Infinity.
Yes.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Big Infinity.
Doesn't matter how many teams we add.
That's right. We can add as many teams as we want. That's a good one. It's the BIC.
I think we go La Liga inspired and just name like it. Hey, let Big go, let Conference go. Let's just really just come up with. We just call it Sports Home. Like we really get avant-garde.
Go Big or Go Home Conference. By the way, right after you said the Big Lebowski.
No, I said
Big Lebowski.
Oh, Big. Okay, so there was
Lebowski's good.
A text came in and said the Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
So it was right around when you were saying. So you were both on the same wavelength. The Big Lebowski. Common Core Conference. CCC.
Getting a good acronym is also going to be important.
The BBW Conference. Oh, Jesus.
Wait, BPW?
BBW.
Let's go to the Ball Bouncing Conference.
All right, so these are fun names coming into the text line.
The World
Big Whatever
of
Conference,
Wow
BWC.
Conference.
Big Whatever Conference, the BWC.
Feeds itself there.
Okay, there you go. So we're getting the name of these conferences once the 4 Pac-12 schools join the Big 12 that will have 14 but has 10, and then we'll have 12, and then if they get those 4 teams, we'll have the 16.
What's the best nickname that the Washington NFL organization has had over the last several years?
Football team.
The Washington football team. We're just going to call this the conference.
The conference.
Done. It's simply the conference.
This is a good one. Text says, this legit says, screw conference, one up them all. Call it the Big League.
Yes! That's it.
Big League. You
That's
can be
the
a
one
conference.
for me, Texter.
You can be we're the TBG.
Yeah.
Or TBL. I don't know where G came from. TBL. You guys can be the conferences. We're a damn league.
We're the big leagues.
Yeah.
We're the big leagues. This is the big leagues over here.
Go even higher. I mean, just call it like it can be an alliance or maybe even like a republic, maybe.
Ooh, I like the republic.
Text says
it's some sort of democracy.
Text says your mom goes to college conference. That is my humor right there.
That is from a show called Napoleon Dynamite.
I've seen Napoleon Dynamite. I wasn't allowed to watch it when it first came out, but in the years since, I've gone back.
That is such my humor.
That's not really
spoke right
not really
to me
an
with that
R-rated
one.
movie, was it?
I was very sheltered. Yeah.
Text says
I could only watch Barney until my 13th birthday, and then
there were a lot of communist overtones in Barney.
That's what I'm realizing now. It explains a lot.
This. Text says
the Communist Conference.
Years ago when the Big 8 was expanded. I don't think that would go over well.
The Union of Soviet
it's going to work.
Sports.
Our, like OUR?
Yeah.
Our conference. That's a hard word for me to. I don't know why. I really over-enunciate.
Well, because then
if it's the Communist Conference, then it's the nickname. It's
the big
our
union.
conference.
But people will then
okay,
get.
I like that.
Yeah, but then you'll see people on Twitter calling it the ARE conference, the OUR.
You can work on that.
Getting confused with the our R.
The Comrade Conference. Conference of Comrades.
Tex says years ago when the Big 8 was expanding, I suggested ditching the numbers and going with the Great Plains Conference. That would have been smart at that time.
It would have, but now we still have geographical connections there. You can't rebrand twice.
Isn't in the Great Plains,
right? So I like the Great Plains a lot as a nomenclature for what has previously been.
I like the big league. I like the big league.
How about you take the first letter of every state represented in the conference and you put together some sort of like acronym, right? Or whatever that's called when you.
Tex says, "How about the People's Conference? Then whoever wins becomes the People's Champion."
I like this a lot.
Yeah, give me the. Hopefully, there's some vowels in there so we can make a word out of it.
It would be odd if there was.
Oklahoma's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah,
and Iowa.
Oklahoma State.
And Iowa.
So, yeah,
Oklahoma State wouldn't. But this is when Oklahoma and Texas are gone.
We have state though. We got state still.
Okay, that's a good point.
So you for BYU, for Utah?
Utah. We got Utah.
We got Utah. There
we
go.
got
Ohio. We got Ohio.
Arizona.
We're going to be fine. I'm working on this.
That's right.
I'm going to get current. I'm going current teams, not including OU and Texas, adding BYU, Central Florida,
and
Cincy,
you're not
and
adding
Houston.
Arizona or
Colorado. But you got to add.
Okay.
You got to add Florida and Ohio.
Yep.
And you got.
Yep. Those
there's
are
a lot
all
of
things I just said about
vowels.
5 seconds
And
ago.
are we adding a W and a V or just a W for West Virginia?
That one I haven't decided yet. I'll let you know.
Wow. It's a good
Whatever
point.
helps your cause and your word.
Thank
and everything.
you.
I'm guessing adding a V to the word isn't going to help finding some sort of.
I don't know. It may help because there's a
pronouncer.
lot. We're finding out there's a lot of vowels.
Also, do
There's
I have
almost more vowels than we want.
Do I have to have like a K for Kansas and one for Kansas State, or is it just
one.
just the state that that is occupied?
Yep.
Okay.
Collaborators.
A lot of Texas is obviously
Revolving Door Conference, RDC.
That's pretty good.
That's self-deprecating though. You want them to name it and be like, take that Big Ten.
Okay, so I got Texas, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma.
Write them down.
I am writing them down. I'm just making
need
sure
to
that
see-
I get them all right here. I think I double added Texas. I can take out this second T here.
Yeah, you work on that.
I'll keep working on it. We got a
Tico
UFO.
Wufo? Tico Wufo?
Tico Wufo is there
are there
for the
two O's?
taking. Yeah, Ohio and Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right.
I think I added Texas twice. We can probably get rid of the V there for WV. I'm going to move it over to the Google Doc here.
We
Texas.
can get a wolf out of there. WOOF.
Oh, the Wolf Conference.
Wolf tick. Oh, wolf tick. It just bothers you. It's always just there. It'll either bite you, kill you, or just gnaw at you, and suck your blood. The Texas mid-intermediate league format, the MILF.
They have an island now.
The
Got a
schools
banner,
in the
too.
Heartland Institutes of Technology.
Yeah.
SHIT.
C
We
to
can
C.
go Wolf-fict or Tifk. Wolf-Tifk is nice. I like Wolf-Tifk. That's my current leader in the clubhouse. There's no V there for West Virginia. That's going to be, it is definitely going to be tough.
Texas.
It's a silent V.
Wait, you have two Fs. You have two Fs.
Did I double? I added two Fs there. You're right. I didn't.
I think you're going to have 7 letters.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Wolf tick.
Once you add
Wolf-Tick. Wolf-Tick is hard to beat.
once you add the second F, you'll be out of Fs.
Yeah, I
So
was
you
F'd for sure.
The
Or can you do, let's see, TOOK, right?
Yeah, we can
I'm like, we took some teams.
Texas calling it the huge conference or THC.
Oh, hey,
sure.
guys, what happened? What happened to all those teams that used to be in other conferences?
We took with them.
They got took with us. Conference.
THC. By the way, a few texters coming in with the acronyms on THC. The THC conference, the huge
Weird.
conference. It's odd. Let's hear Brett Veach, who was talking with Pro Football Talk at the Combine yesterday.
Is your neck okay, Mick? 'Cause sometimes I get whiplash from our segues.
That was a smooth one right there.
He was asked about, hey, your team's pretty good and everything. Like these one-year deals, does having a good team in Mahomes, does that make it easier for you guys? And does that make it more likely for some of these Juju Smith-Schusters and Carlos Dunlaps? It's what we've talked about before. Here is Brett Veach weighing in on his team's success, and does that make it more likely for them to be a landing spot for veterans that are looking to win and get these one-year deals?
I think you do, to
Yeah.
a certain extent. I mean, and look, I mean, if if you are a veteran free agent and you're looking at one-year deals, I mean, why, especially if you're an offensive player, I mean, why wouldn't you want to play with Pat Mahomes?
Yeah.
And so I certainly think that as the years go on, you're going to see more and more of those one-year deals and players that want to put the final check box.
Juju Smith-Schuster type of things,
and
right?
And it worked out amazing for him,
right?
And hopefully we can get him back. But I think you'll certainly see that.
Acknowledging it, yeah, I think that'll happen. I think that'll happen when you're. I mean, he would know if it's even a possibility. But also, he didn't just outright go, well, it's a lot of players looking for whatever the fit is and who we're interested in. But yeah, why wouldn't you want to play with Pat Mahomes? Yeah, why wouldn't you? Anybody out there that's a wide receiver. But Juju Smith-Schuster, would like to have him back. A little nugget in there as well.
We'd like to have him back. We'd like to have 100 guys on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to have $100 million more to spend on a salary cap. But you know what? Can't do it.
Our options will really open up when Colorado joins, specifically when you have Florida, Utah, Colorado, and Kansas.
Did you an A with that Colorado?
No, that wasn't super relevant to just where I was at building this one out.
I like Fitwoko.
Fitwoko. I think Woof Tick is currently my favorite, but Tick
All
Wolf.
Right. Coming up this weekend, Mizzou in action at 2:30 against Ole Miss. Senior day for Mizzou. K-State heading to Morgantown to face off against West Virginia. 1 o'clock tomorrow, ESPN+. KU heading to Texas, where the Big 12 is not on the line. By the way, K-State, if they just simply win, they're the 2 seed next week here in Kansas City. But K-State heading to Texas, that's 3 o'clock on ESPN tomorrow. It's also 1:30 right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And the Combine going on, Sporting KC in action on Apple TV. So a lot of stuff, and right here on Sports Radio 810. So a lot of stuff happening this weekend.
Mick, who do you think is going to raise the roof? Which is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, where one call does it all.
Marquise Noel.
Marquise Noel raising the roof this week?
Oh, absolutely.
Big night.
He had a big night on Wednesday.
More big nights?
He did.
It's brought to you, Jason, I got to read it twice. So it's brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local residential and commercial roofing contractors, where, again, one call does it all with Shamrock Roofing.
Great. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Cuts next.
Mick Shaffer is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food, try it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
11% off. Everything is back. Menards carries a great selection of in-stock appliances. From countertops to cabinetry, we have everything you need to turn your kitchen dreams into reality. Complete your look with Quality One Oak cabinets. These cabinets come ready to install, ready to finish, and are ready to take home today. All Quality One cabinets are 11% off. Good to March 5th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Violent crimes are up over 30% across the United States from just 1 year ago. There's a child reported missing every 40 seconds in the United States, and over 50 million people in the U.S. are experiencing a mental health crisis. It's time to do something about it. Safer, the world's first social protection application. Once you have the app, you just hit the Safer button or say your safer word, and instantly alert all your friends, family, and anyone within 1,000 feet that has the app that you're not feeling safe and may need help. Go to 810WHB.com and hit the Safer link to receive over 50% off.
Not everyone can climb a ladder or spend all day on an uneven surface climbing to new heights. That's why God created a roofer, one who loves the outdoors and working with their hands, and that feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day. Putting a roof over your head. That's why God created a roofer. Someone who gets up before the morning light, works all day in the hot sun or bitter wind, and still makes it home in time to catch the kids' ball game. That's why God created a roofer. The kind of person who doesn't own a suit or tie, who feels trapped in an office, who is most at home with a hammer in their hand and love in their heart. They believe that a team can do just about anything. That's a Shamrock Roofer.
Great music tells a story, and so does great bourbon. At Blue Note Bourbon, they put soul into every handcrafted bottle of Blue Note. Maybe that's why it's won so many awards. Ask for Blue Note Bourbon by name. They're on the shelf at all of your favorite liquor stores. Hear that? It's the sound of a good time. and that means Blue Note Bourbon is probably close by. Their award-winning straight bourbon whiskey is smooth no matter how you take it. Blue Note Bourbon. Sounds like a good time.
We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we're for the people of Missouri. We're for kayakers, car dealers, grocery baggers, and mail carriers. We're for teachers, preachers, students, and singers. Armed service members, you bet we're for you. We're for people who shake your hand and say hello, not because they know you, but because they don't. We're for brewmasters, stockbrokers, beauty queens, and truck drivers. And don't worry, we're still for farmers too. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, we're for you.
I am Ethan Stark, your Missouri Farm Bureau insurance agent. And if you're in Clay County, I've got you covered.
Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia is home of the 90-day money-back guarantee. If you're looking to buy a new vehicle like a 2023 Kia Telluride, Seltos, or the redesigned Sportage, buy it from Brogdon. If you don't love it, return of the purchase price. But if you do love it, you've got a great vehicle with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia at I-35 in Santa Fe or online at olathekia.com. Customer must register vehicle. Warranty is a limited powertrain warranty. See kia.com or retailer for details.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Very disappointed. I wanted to play like 30 more cuts.
Should have
Are
broke.
you hiding them somewhere?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, wrapping up a week's worth of shows. It's The Zone. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41. That's him right there. You just heard him right there. That's his voice in the background. Saying hi. He sounds just like that. When he's off the air, that's how he sounds.
That's how it sounds.
It's very timid. Hi.
On the air, I project from my diaphragm.
But you give everything you have when you're on TV or radio, and after
And I'm
that,
done
you just.
for.
It's like a balloon losing all of its air. Hi.
Sure
I don't care, honey. Whatever you want to do. We can eat there. That's fine. Sounds good to me.
Whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can go there too. Let's hear the cuts. Things that happened this week. Good, bad, indifferent. I'm not sure. Take it away, Beards.
I mean, I told our guys, I don't think really we have anything to worry about, and I will blast their ass. I mean, as far and as long as I can if they don't let these guys in the tournament.
Yeah, Bob Huggins. There's a laying down the gauntlet there, committee.
Yeah, nobody blasted there. I've been to a tournament before. I've never been to an ass blasting. I've been to.
I mean, if that were the case, I'd be
in.
going down to the park looking for some kids to take to the golf show.
I don't think that's going to work out well for you, Matt.
Beards Market. Stay healthy and many birthdays to come. So that's very good. I'm glad to see you're staying on top of that.
Do you have time? Ophelia's in the car with me, and she brought her journal where she writes down her new dad jokes, and she really wanted to tell one if you have time.
Oh, let's hear it.
All right, here you go. I just saw a TV program on beavers. It was the best damn program ever.
Nate's daughter.
My daughter's cussing on the radio. What just happened? What did she say? Yes, sir. Who's that sailor that was just on the air?
It's a great joke.
What was the joke?
A program on beavers. It was the best damn program
nice.
ever. Yes, it's not a curse word.
And hooks is like little feet, and then one on top holding it in. You can just slide it in and out.
I don't even know what that's reference to, but you can imagine.
Oh, just sex is what he's talking about. That's not what do you think?
Yeah.
And yes.
Oh, hello. It's a good one. I like that one.
Here and
what is that about, Matt?
Thanks for continually interrupting it. Here, let's play it again.
Well, we were all confused here for a second.
Yeah, we were all confused, but only one of us was talking.
From the top.
Matt Tate. Yeah.
And yes.
Hello.
Here and
Matt. That'll be fun Friday. There we go.
There you go.
Yes. Well, I was a little concerned that it was something that I put in for the clips because yesterday I put in the Jerome Tang clip that was like 10 seconds and it was supposed to be a minute and a half. So I was very concerned I did it again.
I was there on Saturday, impulse buy, something called a liquor stick. I explained what it was, but you cut that out? Okay.
Yeah, you're talking.
That's not what you think. He was talking about sex.
Yes. Weird.
It's called a liquor stick. Not what you think. It's talking about a body part.
No.
You should have done like Mick Shaffer and just have a little rack with the 4 different suits you've got and rotate through it.
Rotate through
As near as I can tell, Mick hasn't worked 5 days in a week in about 4 years.
It's, you know what, I turn on there and I
I'm with you. I'm going, what days is he?
I've
really
been on
on?
Sound Off 5 times. I've been with Mick once.
I know. I'm like,
it was last
Mick,
July.
what's, I got some days I got to use.
Yeah, he was on Sunday night.
From what? Yeah.
You ever work 5 days in a week?
I worked 18 straight days from the championship game all the way through the Super Bowl and through the parade. Sorry, Seren.
Keep going to
Which is never a prerequisite for being a football coach.
A prerequisite.
It was a prerequisite. Which is never a prerequisite for being a football coach.
Yes.
Almost got away with that one, too. With your pesky kids.
Tas. Feet times lady.
All right, man, you got to hear what Beards is on in his free time. Beards is a little pervert DJ. DJ pervert? DJ pervert!
Also a conference
DJP.
name.
Jason looks the most athletic.
Right, but that doesn't mean anything.
That's true.
But he's also weak.
Todd just calls it like he sees
So
it.
true. So true.
All right, here's your 10 school-specific featured food items. Tell me what you want to eat.
Big 12.
Where?
At the Big 12.
In the arena.
Yeah. So a Cyclones tenderloin.
The Cyclone thing is if you eat it, even if the team loses, it stays in you for 3 days.
Yeah, you just have it forever.
Iowa State fans, they always say.
So it's calling the Marquez Show featuring Derek Jeter and Richard Sherman.
That's absolutely right.
Sherman.
No, it's
Whoa, Richard Sherman's there, too. Crazy.
And Richard Seymour.
Actually, I need to dip, though, real quick. I have a fashion show in New York. I will be right back.
Oh, you mean the first-round draft pick the Royals took that skipped the parade to be at a fashion show this
She's not Royals,
couple of
better
weeks?
than that.
I did it on purpose. I didn't.
I've always said, and it's my own personal philosophy, it's cute, it's sexy to play Golden State Warriors football in September and October when the weather's good, but the teams that are playing in January and into February are teams that play tough defense and teams that are able to run the ball. And so you got to be able to do those things.
Thank you, Rand Carthon, the new Titans GM.
Even
I
though,
want
like, the
somebody
Warriors
else's
win
bag.
titles. What was that one? I
I
missed
want somebody else's bag.
What's it called?
Nice.
Your day can only get worse from there.
Yeah, man.
You sure you want to
Two
play this
things I
game and
love.
talk to us? You got a softie from Lebo.
I would take full responsibility
dropped the ball.
for my wife not getting on that sooner.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that might be what she said.
Did you ever see the Trip with Steve Coogan?
No.
It's this hilarious movie, and
Will this be shorter or longer than an 8 story?
if you shut up, probably shorter.
Shut up, it'll be shorter. Thank you, Mick. Appreciate it.
Anytime. And by that, I
Absolutely.
mean 3 times a week.
Right. And it's not what
Ish.
you're thinking. He's talking about work. Program next.